Alright, everybody. Hello. Welcome to what is probably... It's not an episode of What Have I Done? It is a audiobook, if you will. I have had my first Bang Energy, and it has given me such an interesting outlook on life. And now, I will be reading a story to you. This is called Female Genital Mutilation. Integrating the prevention and the management of the health complications into the curricula of nursing and midwifery. This is a student's manual, written by the Department of Gender and Women's Health, Department of so this is multiple. Department of Gender and Women's Health, Department of Reproductive Health and Research, Family and Community Health, World Health Organization, and Geneva. So we got multiple signatures on this. Female genital mutilation. Okay, so this is the same. So we got the table of contents. And we're going to read the acknowledgments, Get comfy. This is going to be a long one. It's 104 pages. This document is part of a set of training materials, teacher's guide, student manual, and policy guidelines, which have been prepared by the World Health Organization, WHO, to facilitate training for health personnel on female genital mutilation. Acknowledgement goes to the technical team, Miss Ifua Dorkino, OBE, Miss Stella Mapanda, and Miss Freddie Mwanga, who prepared the materials. Again, sorry if I'm butchering those names. The project would not have been successful without the technical inputs from the following nurses and midwives. We would therefore like to acknowledge the contribution made by the following: Miss Buthina Abdelgadir Mohammed, Miss Nikki Denholm, Miss Fadwa Afara, Miss Comfort Momo, Miss Lisbeth Nybro Smith, Miss Kauser Omer Hashi, Miss Fathia Ibrahim, Dr. Christine Adebaho, Miss Yasin S. Sise, Dr. Omangondo O. Genge, Dr. Gaynor D. McLean, Miss Valerie J. Tickner, Miss Emma Banga, and Dr. Naima Al-Gasser. The contribution from nurses, midwives, and doctors who helped with field testing of the materials, as well as input received from the International Council of Nurses, ICN, and the International Confederation of Midwives, ICM, are greatly appreciated. Thanks to Dr. Heli Bathesia and Miss A. Fahmy for their review comments, and to Mr. Simeon Obadero for his contribution to the Human Rights section. Thanks also to Sue Armstrong and Jillian Albertoli for assisting with the editing. The project could not have been successful without funding support from UNFIP, DFID, and AUSAID. The organization gratefully acknowledges their timely support. Clinical photographs, Dr. Harry Gordon. Tradition, copyright Ifoo Dorkino, forward 1992. Cover photograph courtesy of AI. Design, Mr. Caleb Rutherford. Eidetic, copyright World Health Organization, 2001. This document is not a formal publication of the World Health Organization, WHO, and all rights are reserved by the organization. Document may, however, be freely reviewed, abstracted, and translated in part or whole, but not for sale, nor for use in conjunction with commercial purposes. And here's the foreword. An estimated 100 to 140 million girls and women in the world today have undergone some form of female genital mutilation, and 2 million girls are at risk from the practice each year. The great majority of affected women live in sub-Saharan Africa, but the practice is also known in parts of the Middle East and Asia. Today, women with FGM are increasingly found in Europe, Australia, New Zealand, Canada, and the United States of America, largely as a result of migration from the countries where FGM is a cultural tradition. FGM covers a range of procedures, but in the great majority of cases, it involves the excision of the clitoris and the labia minora. At its most extreme, the procedure entails the excision of almost all external genitalia and stitching up of the vulva to leave only a tiny opening. Whatever form it takes, FGM is a violation of the human rights of girls and women, and is a great threat to their health. The complication of female genital mutilation, physical, psychological, and sexual, require skilled and sensitive management by healthcare workers, yet FGM is rarely mentioned, let alone covered in detail in the training curricula of nurses, midwives, and other health professionals. Who World Health Organization, is committed to filling these gaps in professional education by producing a range of training materials to build the capacity of health personnel to prevent and to manage the health complications of female genital mutilation. These materials are dedicated to all the girls and women who suffer, very often in silence, the personal violation and pain of female genital mutilation, and to those committed to their care and relief of their suffering. Though much has been achieved over the past 2 decades in lifting the veil of secrecy surrounding female genital mutilation, there is still an enormous amount to be done to provide quality services to those affected, and to prevent other little girls and women from adding to their numbers. It is hoped that bringing female genital mutilation into mainstream education for health professionals will increase the pressure for elimination of the practice, while at the same time throwing out a lifetime to those who have felt isolated with their problems for so long. Dr. Thomas Terman, Executive Director, Family and Community Health, World Health Organization, Geneva. Introduction. This manual has been prepared for use by students in response to the needs expressed in a proposal on female genital mutilation, FGM, in which nurses and midwives express the need to acquire knowledge and skills to prevent FGM, and to be able to manage girls and women with FGM complications. The manual provides students with strategies involving individuals, families, communities, and political leaders in the prevention of FGM. It prepares students to manage clients with FGM during pregnancy, childbirth, and the postpartum period, by providing a step-by-step guide to assessment, counseling, referral, and opening of the Type 3 FGM. Who is this manual for? The manual is intended for use primarily by nurses and midwives during basic, post-basic, or in-service training. It may also be of use in education and training of medical students, clinical officers, public health officers, and other healthcare providers. How is this manual organized? The manual consists of 4 modules. These are as follows. Module 1 provides the foundation for the course. It introduces students to the practices involved in female genital mutilation and explains how these are influenced by tradition. Module 2 prepares students for working with communities to prevent female genital mutilation. This module looks at different strategies for involving males, females, youth, and community leaders in prevention activities. Module 3 gives nurses and midwives the skills necessary to identify the complications of FGM and to manage girls and women who present with such complications. Module 4 prepares midwives and those involved in caring for women during pregnancy, labor, delivery, and the postpartum period. The module provides skills in counseling, opening up the Type 3 FGM, and the management of other complications due to FGM. Each module starts with an introduction to the issues covered, and then describes the general objectives of the module, the essential skills to be acquired, and provides information on the reference materials to be used. Each module is divided into separate sessions or lessons. Learning resources including videos, books, pamphlets, etc. are identified, and a full list appears in the appendix. These are, however, only intended as guidance. Students are advised to make use of whatever resources are available locally. Learning activities. Because female genital mutilation is an extremely sensitive subject, it is important that students have the opportunity to share their own experiences, ideas, beliefs, and cultural values as much as possible. Besides being an effective method of learning, this helps to reduce anxieties. The sessions of this manual are therefore designed to be participatory. The main teaching and learning activities are the lecture. This is a brief talk used by teachers to introduce a session or topic, or provide new information, or summarize ideas given by students after a group discussion or assignment. However, such talks by teachers will be kept to a minimum to allow greater time for students to participate and share their own ideas. Small group discussion. Students divide into groups of 6 to 8 to discuss an issue and come up with a common viewpoint. Students will be given an assignment and time to complete it. They will be required to present their views to the entire class. Buzz group discussions. These are brief discussions between 2 or 3 students designed mainly to encourage participation. Students should turn to their neighbors and discuss a given subject for a short time before sharing their thoughts and ideas with the class. Plenary or large group discussion. These are sessions in which the teacher engages the entire class in brainstorming on an issue or in discussing feedback for small group work. The summary. At the end of each session, the classes will be asked to summarize what has been learned, to see how this matches up to the original objectives. The process will give students the opportunity to seek clarification on anything they have not understood and to raise further questions on issues covered on the session, if they so wish. Case studies. Students may be given the opportunity to share real-life case studies from the community or clinic with others in the classroom. Where this is not feasible, fictional cases will be used for classroom discussion. Scenarios and situation analysis. Students will be given case histories, scenarios, or situations to analyze. They will be expected to decide how such cases or situations should be managed and to be able to justify their decisions. Students will work singly or in groups on these assignments, but an important part of the exercise will be sharing their analysis with the class. Role play and drama. Students may be given a range of roles to play in mini-dramas in order to give them insights into different people's situations and points of view regarding female genital mutilation. Sometimes these roles will be allocated by the teacher. At other times, students will work together with the teacher on translating stories or actual case studies into dramas they can act out. Storytelling. This activity will be used to explore attitudes and values. The modules include stories that illustrate so many different aspects of female genital mutilation, which the teacher or student can tell to the class. Simulation games and exercises. These are make-believe situations in which students are asked to perform a procedure. They are an effective means of learning skills. In each module, there is an indication of where simulation games and exercises may be used. Demonstration and return demonstration. This is a very important part of the learning process. Teachers will demonstrate essential skills to students. After requesting them to observe carefully, selected students will then be asked to demonstrate what they observe, return demonstration. This is the time for clarification of any uncertainties, and students are encouraged. It says encouraged, but it should be encouraged to ask questions. They will then be given an opportunity to practice the skills in a clinical setting. Field trips. These are visits organized by the teacher to communities, youth centers, or schools, where students can observe different situations relevant to their training. Guidelines for this field experience will be provided, and students will be given projects to write up and present individually or as a group in class. Clinical practice. In order for students to learn clinical skills, they will be assigned to a clinic where relevant skills are practiced. They will be supervised by both their teachers and the clinic staff. Objectives for clinical practice and the skills to be learned are prepared by the teacher. Assignments. In each module, there are opportunities for a student to undertake assignments, either individually or in groups, so that they may practice using their knowledge and skills and to make sure they understand the work. Feedback is an essential part of every assignment. Evaluation. In order to evaluate what students have learned, there is a pre-test exercise at the beginning of each module and a post-test exercise at the end. However, evaluation would be a continuous process, and the teacher would organize time and questions and answers for quizzes and peer assessment at regular intervals to check the understanding of the students. Module 1. Introduction to Female Genital Mutilation. This module is intended to equip students with basic information about female genital mutilation, its health consequences, and their cultural traditions that underpin it. It will also look at the ethical, legal, and human rights implications of Fgm. General objectives. On completion of the module, students should be able to give a description of female genital mutilation, recall the WHO classification of the Fgm, give theories behind the origins of Fgm, identify reasons given by communities for practicing Fgm, describe the range of procedures carried out in a particular country, describe the effects of Fgm on the health of girls and women in the community. Essential competencies. Students are expected to acquire the following skills from this module: knowledge and understanding of the World Health Organization classification of female genital mutilation, knowledge of the prevalence of Fgm worldwide and nationally, knowledge of what is involved in Fgm, how the procedure is performed, by whom, to whom, at what ages, under what conditions, and for what reasons. Knowledge for the full range of complications associated with female genital mutilation among clients of different ages: physical complications, psychosocial complications, sexual complications, and obstetric complications. Reference manuals. We don't. Yeah, we'll read that. Female genital mutilation, a joint. World Health Organization, UNICEF, UNFPA Statement, Geneva, World Health Organization, 1997. A systematic review of the complications of female genital mutilation, including sequelae in childbirth, World Health Organization, FCH, WMH 00.2, Geneva, 2000. Regional Plan of the Action to Accelerate the Elimination of Female Genital Mutilation in Africa. WHO Regional Office for Africa, Brazzaville, 1996. AFR WAH 97.1. Female Genital Mutilation, an Overview. Geneva. World Health Organization, Geneva, 1998. Summary of international and regional human rights text relevant to the prevention of violence against women. Geneva, World Health Organization, 1999. WHO, GCWG, WMH, 99.3. Female Genital Mutilation, a Handbook for Frontline Workers, Geneva, World Health Organization, 2000. WHO, FCH, WMH, 00.5, Revision 1. Female Genital Mutilation, Report of a World Health Organization Technical Working Group, Geneva, 17 to 19 July 1995. Geneva, World Health Organization, 1996. WHO, FRH, WHD, 96.10. The Right Path to Health. Health Education Through Religion, Islamic Ruling, and Female Circumcision. WHO, Regional Office for Eastern Mediterranean, 1996. Regional and national references such as WHO, Regional Strategy for Reproductive Health, National Plans of Action on the Elimination of Fgm Practice. The Sessions. Session 1. Analyzing and Influencing Traditions. Session 2. Description and Background of Fgm. Session 3. Complications of Fgm. Session 4. Professional Ethics and Legal Implications of Fgm. Session 5. Human Rights and Fgm. And we are greeted with a picture of what appears to be an African tribe next to a tree. I don't really know what they're doing, but it seems like they're having fun. Session 1. Analyzing and Influencing Traditions. Session Objectives. By the end of the session, students are expected to 1. Have a broad understanding of the meaning of tradition. 2. Be able to identify traditions which are prevalent in the community. 3. Be able to identify good and bad traditions. 4. Have constructive ideas on how to bring about change. Key reference, Dorkanu, E. Tradition, A Story of Mother Earth, published by Forward Limited, London, 1992. Introduction. Female genital mutilation, FGM, is a term now generally accepted for the traditional practices that entail injury or removal or part or all of the external genitalia of girls and women. It does not include genital surgery performed for medically prescribed reasons. Prior to the adoption of female genital mutilation, the practices were referred to as female circumcision, a term still in common use and preferred by the majority of people in communities where it is preferred. Well, if it's preferred by the majority. Defining tradition. Traditions are the customs, beliefs, and values of a community which govern and influence people's behavior. Traditions constitute learned habits which are passed on from generation to generation. Traditions are often guided by taboos, and they are not easy to change. People adhere to these patterns of behavior, believing that they are the right things to do. Examining tradition. Tradition can be beneficial, harmful, or neutral, i.e., neither beneficial nor harmful. For example, beneficial, breastfeeding, women receive relieved of work after delivery, special care and nutritious diet for a newly delivered mother, puberty rights without female genital mutilation, which prepare adolescents for womanhood. Harmful, lack of autonomy for women in seeking medical care, decision made only by men, food taboos for pregnant women and children, early marriage and early childbearing for girls, force feeding for babies, son preference, priority of access for men and boys in the family to good food, mother and daughters eat last, tribal marks, female genital mutilation. Neutral, wearing talisman, putting a piece of thread on the baby's interior fontanelle to cure hiccups, wearing charms to keep evil spirits away. Thinking about harmful tradition. Tradition, A Story of Mother Earth by Efuzu Dorkinu, published by Forward Limited, London, 1992. Once upon a time, there was a kingdom in a faraway country known as the Land of Myrrh. There lived a proud people of great cultural heritage, enriched by deep-rooted and much-treasured traditions. It was tradition, for instance, that the women of Myrrh were one-legged. But one-legged as they might be, a more elegant and self-possessed species of womankind can hardly be imagined. They had charming, flirtatious ways, and an extraordinary gift for beautiful poetry. At the same time, they were not without ambitions, and they possessed just the right measure of astuteness necessary to achieve them, and when the occasion demanded it, they could be very aggressive. One day, the great creator sent Mother Earth to the land of Myrrh to see how people were getting along. You see, there had been a very bad drought. People were hungry, and naturally the great creator was concerned. And so Mother Earth, disguised as an old woman, visited the land of Myrrh. She was surprised to notice, upon her arrival, that the women considered it not only normal, but fashionable to walk on one leg. So Mother Earth set about trying to discover the reasons for the strange phenomenon of the one-legged women. This, however, was no easy task. The people she asked gave somewhat confusing answers as to why women were unable to keep their two legs. Some people told her that if one of the legs of a little girl was not cut off, it would grow and grow, and before you knew where you were, it would become as big as a tree. Others told her that a woman with both legs was unable to bear a child. Yet others explained that a woman needed protection from herself, and somehow having one leg cut off helped to ensure this. Mother Earth asked, "In what way?" But she did not receive a satisfactory answer. However, when she persisted with her question, Mother Earth was told that with two legs a woman would run away and become a prostitute, but with one she would have difficulty. Some people turned to a religious text for an answer to Mother Earth's question, and they convinced themselves that it was the great creator who had decreed that women would behave better with just one leg. But there was a very old woman in the land of Myrrh who could remember how this habit of cutting one leg off every little girl had started, and she told Mother Earth the following story. "A long time ago," said the old woman, "in fact 3,000 years ago, in the reign of Muasa, the land of Myrrh was enjoying a period of plenty, and there were great festivities. Each year, colorful exotic dance festivals were held to select the person who would be of the land. In those days, men and women were competed equally, and the best dancer would be crowned the ruler of Myrrh. For 5 successive years, Muasa won all the competitions, hands down, but in the 6th year, it seemed that the throne was going to be snatched from him. A beautiful woman had appeared on the scene, and it was clear she could dance far better than Muasa. Muasa got very worried," the old woman continued. "He decided something had to be done. In desperation, he passed a decree that all women should have one leg cut off. This seemed to solve his problem, for dancing on one leg unsuccessfully put women out of the competition. So Muasa was able to continue his reign for another 20 years. This, then, was the old woman's recollection of how the phenomenon of the one-legged women began. But to generations of the people of Myrrh, it was simply tradition, handed down by their ancestors. What is more, it had never become the responsibility of women themselves to see to it that all girl children adhered to this tradition. Mother Earth was fascinated by this story, but she wanted to know whether the old woman thought it was a good practice. The old woman stood pondering for a while, and then she replied, "I have known of many traditions, some good, some bad. As for this one, I am not sure." Then Mother Earth remarked, "But just from looking at you, I thought you felt comfortable." "Oh no," said the old woman. "We have many difficulties carrying out our daily chores with one leg." But everybody was frightened, and dared not discuss the issue. They all put on a brave face and professed it to be a wonderful tradition. Some said you could only be beautiful with one leg. Others claimed you could only be clean with one leg. Many claimed a woman could only be pure with one leg. After a while, some women would say, "Why should we let the young women off the hook? We have suffered so much for being one-legged. Now it is time for young girls to play their part in keeping the tradition going." By this time, Mother Earth was curious to know what the men had to say about this. Was it possible that fathers would be blindly following such a tradition? Surely not. But the tradition, she discovered, was that could not afford to disapprove of the tradition. The truth, she discovered, was that men could not afford to disapprove of tradition, even bad tradition. They believed it would destroy family honor and dignity and affect their status in the community. And after all, they argued, who would pay a good bride price for a daughter with two legs? Then Mother Earth asked, "But what about the children?" She could imagine them screaming with fear and pain. Yes, she was told, children would always be children. They were those who screamed and shouted and had to be forced into the operation for their own good. Most of them, though, wanted to be like their friends and part of the crowd. And Mother Earth thought that perhaps the rulers of the land might take lead in stopping this bad tradition, but alas, even they were not prepared to do so. They were afraid of challenging such a deep-rooted tradition. Meanwhile, the food situation in this drought-stricken land was getting worse and worse. Walking on crutches, the women found it difficult to work the land, to travel far and wide to find richer pastures and foliage for the animals. But as the situation became more dire, Mother Earth noticed that the people of Myrrh were beginning to question. A few men and women were coming together to discuss what they could do to stop this bad tradition. They had realized that the time had come to challenge it if future generations were to survive these hard times. As they talked amongst themselves, they discovered a multitude of myths surrounding the tradition, and as time went on, they gathered strength to challenge the myths and began to plan. But alas, all this time there had been a spy amongst them. Unknown to them, she had betrayed the plans to the rulers. In return, the rulers had promised that their family would never go hungry. And so the guards came and took away the ringleaders. And that was the end of the effort of the people of Myrrh to come together and stop this evil tradition. And so, children, little girls, continue to be mutilated to this day. In fact, it has been going on for so long now that people just take it for granted. They have stopped questioning their tradition. But come along, children, we have a game of survival to play, and for this we need both our legs. So come along. Summary interpretation of the story. Cutting off the leg is comparable with female genital mutilation. Mother Earth represents all of us and our individual and collective responsibility for the actions of society. Mother Earth's exploration of the tradition depended on her ability to relate effectively to the community. She asked questions. She was non-judgmental. She listened empathetically. She reflected carefully. She used a positive approach. Mother Earth motivated people in the community to think again about the tradition. At the end, where Mother Earth invites children hearing the story to play a game of survival, indicates that the new generation needs to be educated and motivated to change harmful traditions. Some constructive approaches to changing harmful tradition. Awareness raising in communities of problems associated with the tradition. Community involvement to eliminate the practice. Education of healthcare workers to provide knowledge and understanding of the practice. Mobilization of youth, women, elders, and leaders to work to eliminate the practice. Introduction by laws against female genital mutilation practice at community level. Section 2. Description and background of female genital mutilation. Session objectives. By the end of this session, students should be able to describe the structure and function of the normal female external genitalia. Recognize female genital mutilation in a girl or woman. Give descriptive definition of female genital mutilation. Describe the range of procedures and conditions in which female genital mutilation is carried out in their communities. Recall the WHO declassification of female genital mutilation. Give the theories behind the origins of female genital mutilation. Identify the reasons given by communities for performing female genital mutilation. Give estimates of the prevalence of female genital mutilation in the countries where it is practiced. Key references. Female genital mutilation, a joint World Health Organization, UNICEF, UNFPA, Statement, Geneva World Health Organization, 1997. Female genital mutilation, a handbook for frontline workers, Geneva, World Health Organization, 2000. World Health Organization, FCH, WMH, 00.5, Revision 1. Female genital mutilation, an overview, Geneva, World Health Organization, Geneva, 1998. The Right Path to Health. Health education through religion, Islamic ruling, and female circumcision. World Health Organization Regional Office for Eastern Mediterranean, 1996. Learning activities. Students are required individually to learn the anatomy and physiology of the female external genitalia. As an exercise, student will be required to label a diagram of external female genitalia. Figure 1.1. Structure of normal external female genitalia. And we have a lovely depiction, and we're just going to go left to right, top to bottom. So we have the labium minus, the vagina, the anus, the clitoris, the labium majus, the external urethral orifice, the fourchette, the perineum. Structure. The Skene's and Bartholin's glands. Function, lubrication of the vagina. Vaginal orifice. Allows escape of the menstrual flow, sexual intercourse, and delivery of the baby. Urethral meatus. Allows emptying of the bladder within a few minutes. Clitoris. Assists women to achieve sexual satisfaction. Perineum. Supports the pelvic organs and separates vagina from anus. Labia minora. Protects structures and orifices. Labia majora. Protects the inner structures and orifices. Definition of female genital mutilation. Female genital mutilation constitutes all procedures which involve the partial or total removal of the external female genitalia or other injury to the female genital organs, whether for cultural or any other non-therapeutic reasons. World Health Organization, 1995. Prior to the adoption of the term FGM, the practices were referred to as female circumcision. The procedures of FGM. FGM is carried out using special knives, scissors, razors, or pieces of glass. On rare occasions, sharp stones have been reported to be used, e.g. in eastern Sudan. And cauterization, burning, is practiced in some parts of Ethiopia. Fingernails have been used to pluck out the clitoris of babies in some areas in the Gambia. The instruments may be reused without being cleaned. The operation is usually performed by an elderly woman of the village, specially designated this task, who may also be a traditional birth attendant, TBA. Anesthesia is rarely used, and the girl is held down by a number of women, frequently including her own relatives. The procedure may take 15 to 20 minutes, depending on the skill of the operator and the extent of the excision and of the amount of resistance put up by the girl. The wound is dabbed with anything from alcohol or lemon juice to ash, herb mixtures, porridge, or cow dung, and the girl's legs may be bound together until healing is completed. In some areas, e.g. parts of the Congo and mainland Tanzania, FGM entails the pulling of the labia minora and or clitoris over a period of about 2 to 3 weeks. The procedure is usually started by an elderly woman designated to the task, who puts sticks of a special type to hold the stretched genital parts so they do not revert back to their original size. The girl is instructed to pull her genitalia every day to stretch them further and to add additional sticks from time to time to hold the stretched parts. Usually no more than 4 sticks are used, as further pulling and stretching would make the genitals unexceptionally long. FGM includes FGM includes the following operations. See the following pages. 1.2. Normal female external genitalia and female external genitalia with the tip of the clitoris excised. So we have an image, a graph, a diagram of what normal genitalia looks like, and then an excision of the prepuce, the fold of the skin above the clitoris, with the tip of the clitoris. Type 1. Type 1 may consist of removal of the prepuce without damage to the clitoris. And we see what is practically the same, except without a clitoris. Figure 1.3. Normal female external genitalia and female external genitalia with excision of prepuce and clitoris. Now this is the same image of a normal genitalia. And then this one is the excision of prepuce and clitoris, and looks very similar to the previous image, but with more red. Figure 1.4. Normal female external genitalia and genitalia with excision of the prepuce, clitoris, and labia minora. This is type 2. And this is, again, the same picture of normal genitalia, and then the excision of prepuce, clitoris, and labia minora, where they take away the labia minora. Figure 1.5. Normal female external genitalia and infibulated genitalia. Type 3. Normal genitalia, and we have the same lovely image. And then we have infibulated genitalia, which is a real picture, and which seems to depict a sewn-up vagina with what appears to be 2 hands working their magic in there. Figure 1.6. Normal female external genitalia and pulled labia minora. Type 4. We have the same diagram of normal genitalia, and then with pulled labia minora, it takes the labia minora and stretches it out. World Health Organization classifications of female genital mutilation. This is in 1995. Type 1 is excision of the prepuce with or without excision of part or all of the clitoris. Type 2 is excision of the clitoris with partial or total excision of the labia minora. Type 3 is excision of part or all of the external genitalia and stitching/narrowing of the vaginal opening, otherwise known as infibulation. Type 4, unclassified, includes pricking, piercing, or incision of the clitoris and or labia, stretching of the clitoris and or labia, cauterization by burning of the clitoris surrounding tissue, scraping of the vaginal orifice, or inguria cuts, or cutting of the vagina, Gishiri cuts, introduction of the corrosive substances or herbs into the vagina to cause bleeding, into the vagina or for purposes of tightening and narrowing it, and other procedure that falls under the definition of female genital mutilation given above. The age at which female genital mutilation is performed. See figures 1.7 to 1.12. The age at which girls undergo FGM varies widely, depending on the ethnic group or geographical location. Timing of FGM procedure is often flexible even with communities, either because it is not tied to any particular ceremony, or because people's belief in ceremonial significance has died away. The procedure may be carried out on infant girls during childhood or adolescence, at the first time of marriage, at a woman's first pregnancy, or even whilst in labor. Figure 1.7. It is performed on babies, and we see a woman with her baby who does not look very pleased. Figure 1.9. It is performed on adolescents. It is a picture of an adolescent woman. Figure 1.8. It is performed on children, and it is a child girl. None of these pictures are of them getting their genitals mutilated. It is just pictures. Figure 1.10. It is performed on adult women at marriage, and then what is presumed to be a married African family. Figure 1.1. It is performed on pregnant women, and this is what appears to be a very young pregnant individual. Figure 1.12. It is performed during labor and delivery, and this is a image of a woman who is very recently given birth with the baby just pulled out, and let me tell you folks, it is not pretty. The origins of female genital mutilation. It is not known when or where the tradition of female genital mutilation originated. Some people believe that the practice started in ancient Egypt. Some believe that it started during the slave trade when black slave women entered ancient Arab societies. Some people believe FGM began with the arrival of Islam in some parts of sub-Saharan Africa. Others believe it started independently in sub-Saharan Africa prior to the arrival of Islam, notably among warrior-like peoples. Some people believe the practice developed independently among certain ethnic groups in sub-Saharan Africa as part of puberty rites. Who practices FGM? FGM is practiced by followers of different religions, including Muslims, Christians, Catholics, Protestants, and Copts, and animists, as well as by non-believers in the countries concerned. Reasons for performing female genital mutilation. There are a variety of reasons why female genital mutilation continues to be practiced. The reasons given by practicing communities are grouped as follows: sociocultural reasons, hygienic and aesthetic reasons, spiritual and religious reasons, psychosexual reasons. Sociocultural reasons. Some communities believe that unless a girl's clitoris is removed, she will not become a mature woman, or even a full member of the human race. She will have no right to associate with others of her age group or her ancestors. Some communities believe that a woman's external genitalia have the power to blind anyone attending to her childbirth, to cause death of her infant, or else physical deformity or madness, or to cause death of her husband. Female genital mutilation is believed to ensure a girl's virginity. Virginity is a prerequisite for marriage, which is necessary to maintain a family's honor and to secure the family line. The societies practicing FGM are patriarchal and largely patrilineal. Women's access to land and security is through marriage, and only excised women are considered suitable for marriage. In some communities, FGM is the rite of passage into womanhood and accomplished by ceremonies to mark the occasion when the girl becomes a mature woman. In communities that practice FGM, girls are generally subjected to the powerful social pressure from their peers and family members to undergo the procedure. They are threatened with rejection by the group or family if they do not follow tradition. Typically, the tradition exciser is powerful and well-respected member of the community, and FGM is her source of income. She therefore has a personal interest in keeping the tradition alive. Hygienic and aesthetic reasons. In FGM practicing communities, it is believed that a woman's external genitalia are ugly and dirty, and will continue to grow even bigger if they are not cut away. Removing these structures makes a girl hygienically clean. FGM is believed to make a girl beautiful. Spiritual and religious reasons. Some communities believe that removing the external genitalia is necessary to make a girl spiritually clean and therefore required by religion. In Muslim societies which practice FGM, people believe that it is required by the Quran. However, FGM is not mentioned in the Quran. It is important to note that neither the Bible nor the Quran subscribe to the practice of FGM, although it is frequently carried out by the communities, especially Muslim communities, and the genuine belief that it is part of their religion. Psychosexual reasons. The unexcised girl is believed to have an overactive and uncontrollable sex drive that she is likely to lose her she is likely to lose her virginity prematurely, to disgrace her family and damage her chances of marriage. and to become a menace to all the men in her community as a whole. The belief is that the uncut clitoris will grow big and pressure on this organ will arouse intense desire. It is also believed that the tight vaginal orifice of an of an infibulated woman, or a woman who has had chemicals placed in the vagina in order to narrow it, will enhance male sexual pleasure, in turn preventing divorce or unfaithfulness. In some communities, it is believed that excising a woman who fails to conceive will solve the problem of infertility. Who are the excisers? In cultures where FGM is the custom, the operation is performed by traditional excisers, commonly elderly women in the community specially designated to this task. FGM is sometimes performed by traditional birth attendants and village barbers. Medicalization, and that is in quotes, of FGM. FGM is increasingly being performed in hospitals and in health clinics by health professionals using anesthetics and antiseptics. Justification is that it reduces the pain and the risk of the victim's health because the operation is performed hygienically. Health professionals who perform FGM claim that medicalization is the first step towards prevention of the practice, and that if they refuse to carry out an operation, this client will simply have it performed by a traditional exciser in unhygienic conditions and without pain relief. Oops, hang on. I seem to have misplaced my reading document. Oops, that was an accident. Just join the VC. Alright, what do we have here? I'm sorry, guys. I accidentally unclicked it. This is very immature. I mean, not unprofessional of me. Let's go back to where we were. Again, I assure you that things like this happen in a professional setting all the time. FGM, whether carried out in a hospital or any other modern setting, is willful damage to healthy organs for non-therapeutic reasons. It violates the injunction of do no harm and is unethical by any standards. The prevalence of FGM. It is estimated that 100 to 140 million girls and women have undergone some form of female genital mutilation, and that at least 2 million girls per year are at risk of mutilation. Most girls and women who have undergone genital mutilation live in 28 African countries, although some live in the Middle East and Asia. See Table 1. It has also been reported to be practiced in India by the Daudi Bohra Muslims. Due to migration of people who follow this tradition, FGM is seen today in Europe, Australia, Canada, and the United States of America. Table 1. Estimated prevalence of female genital mutilation. Please note, information about the prevalence of FGM comes from sources of variable quality. The summary has organized the information according to the reliability of estimates. Most reliable estimates, national surveys. Burkina Faso, prevalence 72%, year 1998 to 1999. Central African Republic, 43%, 1994 to 1995. Côte d'Ivoire, 43%, 1994. Egypt, 97%, 1995. Eritrea, 95%, 1995. Guinea, 99%, 1999. Kenya, 38%, 1998. Mali, 94%, 1995 to 1996. The one country that kind of looks like that word, I'm not going to try. 5%, 1998. Nigeria, 25%, 1999. Somalia, 98 to 100%, 1982 to 1993. Sudan, 89%, 1989 through 1990. Tanzania, 18%, 1996. Togo, 12%, 1996. Yemen, 23%, 1997. Source for all above estimates, with the exception of Somalia and Togo, National Demographic and Health Surveys, DHS. Available for Macro International, Inc. http www.measuredlhs.int, Calverton, Maryland, USA. For Somalia, the estimate comes from the 1983 National Survey by the Ministry of Health, Fertility and Family Planning in Urban Somalia. 1983. Ministry of Health, Mogadishu and Westinghouse. Survey found a prevalence of 96%. 5 other surveys carried out between 1982 and 1993 on diverse populations found prevalence of 99 to 100%. Details about these sources can be found in reference 3 below. For Togo, the source of a national survey carried out by Unité de Recherche Démographique, URD, in 1996. The reference of the unpublished report is Agunk E. Janssens, M. Vigniken, K. Prevalence et facteurs socio-économiques de l'excision au Togo, rapport provisoire Lomé, June 1996. Results are given in Loco T. 1998, Pratiques, Opinions et Attitudes en matière de décision en Afrique, population 6, 1,227 to 1,240. Year refers to the year of the survey, except for Somalia, where years refer to the publication date of the MOH report. Note that some DHS reports are dated a year after the survey itself. Other estimates. Benin, 50%, 1993, from the National Committee study, unpublished. Chad, 60%, 1991, from UNICEF-sponsored study, unpublished. Ethiopia, 85%, 1885 through 1990. Ministry of Health study sponsored by UNICEF, Inter-African Committee study. Gambia, 80%, 1985, study. Ghana, 30%, 1986 to 1987, 2 studies cited in, on different regions, divergent findings. Liberia, 60%, 1984, unpublished study. Senegal, 20%, 1990, national study. Sierra Leone, 90%, 1987, Koso Thomas O., The Circumcision of Women, A Strategy for Eradication, London, Zed Press, 1987. For published studies, year refers to the year of publication. For unpublished studies, it is not always clear whether a year refers to the year of report or year of survey. Where no year is indicated, the information is not available. Tuba N. 1983, Female Genital Mutilation, A Call for Global Action, rainbow.org, some figures updated in 1996, Arabic Women of the Document, World Health Organization, 1998, Female Genital Mutilation, an overview. Maklouf, Obermeyer, C., 1999, Female Genital Surgeries, the Knowns, the Unknown, and the Unknowable. Anthropology Quarterly, 13, 1, 79 through 106. One study found prevalence ranging from 75 to 100% among ethnic groups in the North. Another study in the South found female genital mutilation only among migrants. 30% comes from reference number 1. A limited survey found that all but 3 groups practice female genital mutilation, an estimated prevalence between 50 to 70%. The 60% comes from reference 1. Questionable estimates, Cameroon, prevalence 20%, Democratic Republic of the Congo, 5%, Djibouti, 98%, Guinea-Bissau, 50%, Mauritania, 25%, and Uganda, 5%. These estimates are based on anecdotal evidence. They're cited in references 1 and 2 above. A national survey has been carried out by the DHS, and the report is forthcoming. An estimated prevalence of FGM among female population in African countries. And now this is a graph of all the countries in Africa that have been given the percentages. Now I think this is an older map, and so some of these aren't existing anymore, and some are not in here. So I just listed all of that, so I think this doesn't need to be repeated. Screw it. Niger, 0 to 24%. Mauritania, 25 to 49%. Mali, 75 to 99%. Senegal, 0 to 24%. Gambia, 75 to 99%. Guinea-Bissau, 50 to 74%. Guinea, 75 to 99%. Sierra Leone, 75 to 99%. Liberia, 50 to 74%. Burkina Faso, Cote d'Ivoire, 25 to 49%. Ghana is 25 to 49%. Togo is 0 to 24%. Benin is 50 to 74%. Nigeria is 25 to 49%. Cameroon is 0 to 24%. Chad is 50 to 74%. Central African Republic is 25 to 49%. Democratic Republic of Congo is 0 to 24%. Egypt is 75 to 99%. Sudan North is 75 to 99%. Eritrea, Ethiopia, Djibouti, Somalia are all 75 to 99%. Uganda is 0 to 24%. Kenya is 25 to 49%. And finally, the United Republic of Tanzania is 0 to 24%. This is WHO 0200205. Session 3. Complications of Female Genital Mutilation. Session Objectives. By the end of the session, students should be able to describe the immediate and long-term physical complications of FGM, recognize the psychosocial and sexual complications of FGM, document FGM complications. Reference material: a systematic review of the health complications of female genital mutilation, including sequelae in childbirth. Geneva, World Health Organization, 2000. WHO, FCH, WMH 00.2. Female Genital Mutilation. Handbook for Frontline Workers. Geneva, World Health Organization, 2000. World Health Organization, FCH, WMH 00.5, Revision 1. Female Genital Mutilation. The Prevention of and Management of the Health Complications. Policy Guidelines for Nurses and Midwives. WHO, FCH, GWH 01.5. WHO, Geneva, 2001. Introduction. The range of health complications associated with FGM is wide, and some are severely disabling. See WHO Systematic Review of Health Complications of FGM under the key references. However, it is important to note that the evidence on the frequency of the lack of health complications is very scanty. Lack of information conceals the extent of FGM and hinders the effort to plan for the health needs of affected communities and to eliminate the practice. At the clinical level, good documentation is necessary for the efficient management of cases and for providing quality health care and follow-up clients with FGM. As an important note, nurses and midwives should record the presence of FGM, the type, and relevant complication as a matter of routine in the clinical records of health service clients as required by the policy of the health institution. Physical complications of FGM. The immediate. Physical complications can include severe pain due to the operation being performed with crude instruments and without anesthetic. The range of complications associated with FGM is wide. In medical settings where local anesthetic is available, it is difficult to administer anesthetic as the clitoris is a highly vascular organ with a dense concentration of nerve endings. Multiple painful injections are required to anesthetize the area completely. Injury to the adjacent tissue of urethra, vagina, perineum, and rectum can result from the use of crude instruments, or because the operator is ignorant of the anatomy and physiology of the female external genitalia, has poor eyesight, or a careless technique, or maybe operating in poor light. Such injury is especially likely if the girl is struggling because of pain and fear. Damage to the urethra can result in incontinence. Hemorrhage. The excision of the clitoris involves cutting the clitoral artery, which has a strong flow and high pressure. Packing, tying, or stitching to stop bleeding may not be effective, and this can lead to hemorrhage. Secondary hemorrhage may occur after the first week as a result of sloughing the clot over the artery due to infection. Cutting of the labia causes further damage to blood vessels and Bartholin glands. Hemorrhage is the most common and life-threatening complication of female genital mutilation. Extensive acute hemorrhage or protracted bleeding can lead to anemia or hemorrhage shock, and in some cases, death. Shock. Immediately after the procedure, the girl may go into shock as a result of the sudden loss of blood, hemorrhage shock, and experience severe pain and trauma, neurogenic shock, which can be fatal. Acute urine retention can result from swelling and inflammation around the wound. The girl's fear of the pain of passing urine on the raw wound or injury to the urethra. Retention is very common. It may last for hours or days, but is usually reversible. This condition often leads to urinary tract infection. Fracture or dislocation. Fractures of the clavicle, femur, or humerus, or dislocation of the hip joint can occur if heavy pressure is applied to restrain the struggling girl during the operation. It is common for several adults to hold a girl down during the mutilation. Infection is very common as a result of unhygienic conditions, use of unsterilized instruments, the application of substances such as herbs or ashes to the wound, which provide an excellent growth for bacteria, binding of the legs following type 3 female genital mutilation, infibulation, which prevents wound damage, or contamination of the wound with urine and or feces. Infections may prevent the wound healing and may result in an abscess, fever, ascending urinary tract infection, pelvic infection, tetanus, gangrene, or septicemia. Severe infections can be fatal. Group mutilations, in which the same unclean instruments are used on each girl successively, may pose a risk of transmission of blood-borne diseases such as HIV and hepatitis B, although there have been no confirmed cases of such transmission to date. Failure to heal. The wounds may fail to heal quickly because of infection, irritation from urine or rubbing when walking, or an underlying condition such as anemia or malnutrition. This can lead to a purulent weeping wound or to a chronic infected ulcer long term. Physical complications may include difficulty in passing urine, can occur as a result of the damage to the urethral opening or scarring of the meatus. Recurrent urinary tract infection. Infection near the urethra can result in an ascending urinary tract infection. This is particularly common following type 3 mutilation, when the normal flow of urine is deflected and the perineum remains constantly wet and susceptible to bacterial growth. Stasis of urine resulting from difficulty in micturition can lead to bladder infections. Both types of infection can be spread to the ureters and kidneys. If not treated, kidney stones and other kidney damage may result. Pelvic infections are common in infibulated women. They are painful and may be accompanied by a discharge. Infections may spread to the uterus, fallopian tubes, and ovaries, and may become chronic. Infertility can result if pelvic infection causes irreparable damage to the reproductive organs. Keloid scar. Slow and incomplete healing of the wound and post-operative infection can lead to the production of excessive connective tissue in the scar, keloids, and may obstruct the vaginal orifice, leading to the dysmenorrhea, painful menstrual period following infibulation. Scarring can be so extensive that it prevents penile penetration and may cause sexual and psychological problems. Abscess. Deep infection resulting from faulty healing or an embedded stitch can cause an abscess, which may require surgical incision. Cysts and abscesses on the vulva. Implantation dermoid cysts are the commonest complication of infibulation. They vary in size, sometimes growing as big as a football and occasionally becoming infected. They're extremely painful and inhibit sexual intercourse. Clitoral neuroma. Painful neuroma can develop as a result of clitoral nerve being trapped in a stitch or in the scar tissue of the healed wound, leading to hypersensitivity and dyspareunia. Difficulties in menstruation can occur as a result of partial or total occlusion of the vaginal opening. Such difficulties include dysmenorrhea and hematocolapse, accumulation of menstrual blood in the vagina. Hematocolapse may appear as a bluish bulging membrane in the vaginal orifice and can prevent penetrative sexual intercourse. It can also cause distension of the abdomen, which, together with the lack of menstrual flow, may give rise to suspicions of pregnancy, with potentially serious social implications. Calculus formation in the vagina. This can occur as a result of the accumulation of menstrual debris and urinary deposits in the vagina or in the space behind the bridge of scar tissue formed after infibulation. Fistulae, holes or false passages between the bladder and the vagina, vesico-vaginal, or between the rectum and the vagina, recto-vaginal, can develop as a result of the injury of soft tissues during mutilation, opening up infibulation or resuturing an infibulation, sexual intercourse, or obstructed labor. Urinary or fecal incontinence can be lifelong and have serious social consequences. Dyspareunia, painful sexual intercourse. This is a consequence of many forms of female genital mutilation because of the scarring, the reduced vaginal opening, and complications such as infection. Vaginal penetration may be difficult or even impossible, and recutting may be necessary. Vaginismus, may result from injury to the vulval area and repeated vigorous sexual intercourse. The vaginal opening closes by reflex action, causing considerable pain and soreness. Sexual dysfunction may affect both partners because of pain and difficulty in vaginal penetration and reduced sexual sensitivity following clitoridectomy. Problems in childbirth are common, particularly following severe forms of mutilation, because the tough scar tissue that forms causes partial or total occlusion of the vaginal opening. Difficulties in performing examination during labor can lead to incorrect monitoring of the stage of labor and fetal presentation. Prolonged and obstructed labor can lead to tearing of the perineum. Where was I? Partial or total problems in childbirth are common, particularly following forms of mutilation, because the tough scar tissue that forms causes partial or total occlusion of the vaginal opening. Difficulties in performing an examination during labor can lead to an incorrect monitoring of the stage of labor and fetal presentation. Prolonged and obstructed labor can lead to tearing of the perineum, hemorrhage, fistula formation, and uterine inertia, rupture, or prolapse. These complications can cause harm to the neonate, including stillbirth and maternal death. In the event of miscarriage, the fetus may be retained in the uterus or birth canal. Psychosocial complications of female genital mutilation. Genital mutilation is commonly performed when girls are young and uninformed, and is often preceded by acts of deception, intimidation, coercion, and violence by parents, relatives, and friends that the girl has trusted. Girls are generally conscious when the painful operation is undertaken, as no anesthetic or other medication is used. They have to be physically restrained because they struggle. In some instances, they are forced to watch the mutilation of other girls. This can lead to psychosocial problems. Examples are as follows. For some girls, mutilation is an occasion marked by fear, submission, inhibition, and the suppression of feelings. The experience is vivid landmark in their mental development, the memory of which never leaves them. Some women have sometimes reported that they suffer pain during sexual intercourse and menstruation that is almost as bad as the initial experience of genital mutilation. They suffer in silence. In Sudan, an official day off from work every month is given to women to deal with the menstrual problems. Some girls and women are ready to express the humiliation, inhibition, and fear that have become part of their lives as a result of enduring genital mutilation. Others find it difficult or impossible to talk about their personal experience, but their obvious anxiety and sometimes tearfulness reflect the depths of their emotional pain. Girls may suffer feelings of betrayal, bitterness, and even anger at being subjected to such an ordeal, even if they receive support from their families immediately following the procedure. This may cause a crisis of confidence and trust in the family and friends that may have long-term implications. It may affect the relationship between the girl and her parents, and may also affect her ability to form intimate relationships in the future, even perhaps with her own children. For some girls and women, the experience of genital mutilation and its effect on them psychologically are comparable to the experience of rape. The experience of genital mutilation has been associated with a range of mental and psychosomatic disorders. For example, girls have reported disturbances in their eating and sleeping habits, and in mood and cognition. Symptoms include sleeplessness, nightmares, loss of appetite, weight loss or excessive weight gain, as well as panic attacks, difficulties in concentration and learning, and other symptoms of post-traumatic stress. As they grow older, women may develop feelings of incompleteness, loss of self-esteem, depression, chronic anxiety, phobias, panic, or even psychotic disorders. Many women suffer in silence, unable to express their pain and fear. Girls who have not been excised may be socially stigmatized, rejected by their communities, and unable to marry locally, which may also cause psychological trauma. Sexual complications of Fgm. Sexual problems as a result of Fgm can affect both health partners in a marriage, from fear of the first sexual intercourse onwards, and create great anxiety. Excised women may experience painful sexual intercourse, dyspareunia. I don't know why they didn't make that word easier to pronounce, because of scarring, narrow vaginal opening, or obstruction of the vagina due to elongation of the labia minora, and complications such as infection. Vaginal penetration for women with a tight introitus may be difficult or even impossible without tearing or recutting the scar. This may lead to loss of self-esteem and sexual dysfunction. Vaginismus may result from injury to the vulval area and repeated vigorous sexual intercourse. Inhibition of coitus because of fear of pain may damage the marital relationships and even lead to divorce. Now, I just want to say we are about 1/3 of the way through. Congratulations for making it this far. Congratulations to me for making it this far. Session 4. Professional Ethics and Legal Implications of Fgm. Session Objectives. By the end of this session, students should be able to 1. Discuss professional ethics in relation to Fgm practice. 2. Discuss the legal implications of Fgm. Learning activities. Students are required to read the National Code of Conduct for Nurses and Midwives to those of international bodies like ICN and ICM. As a group exercise, students will be given case studies to read, analyze, and respond to the following question. What ethical principles and dilemmas are addressed in the case studies? What actions would you have taken and why? What recommendations should have been given? Meaning of professional ethics. Professional ethics are moral statements or principles which guide professional behavior. Ethics are not bound to law. For example, nursing ethics include maintaining confidentiality, showing respect for clients as individuals regardless of their cultural background, socioeconomic status, or religion. The ethical implications of Fgm. Nurses, midwives, and other health personnel are reported to be performing Fgm in both health institutions and private facilities. Aside from the economic aspect, the justification given for medicalization of the practice is that there are less risk of health if the operation is performed in a hygienic environment with anesthetics and infection control. Furthermore, medicalization offers the opportunity to encourage the less drastic forms of mutilation as a first step towards the elimination of the practice. But whether the procedure is performed in a hospital or in the bush, the fact that remains that Fgm is a deliberate damage of healthy organs for no medical or scientific reasons. Performing Fgm is a violation of the ethical principles do not harm and do not kill. WHO has expressed its unequivocal opposition to the medicalization of female genital mutilation, advising that under no circumstances should it be performed by health professionals or in health institutions. Professional bodies such as the International Confederation of Midwives, ICM, the International Council of Nurses, ICN, and the Federation of Gynecologists and Obstetricians have all declared their opposition to the medicalization of Fgm, and have advised that it should never, under any circumstances, be performed in health establishments by health professionals. Legal implications of Fgm. The enactment of a law to protect girls and women from the Fgm makes it clear that what is wrong and what is right. Having a law in place gives the police, community committees, and health professionals the legitimacy to intervene in cases of Fgm. Passing laws is not enough on its own to protect girls and women from Fgm. There's a danger that the fear of prosecution will inhibit people from seeking help for complications. Thus, laws must go hand in hand with the community. Education to raise awareness to the harmful effects of Fgm and to change attitudes on Fgm. A law against Fgm will only be meaningful if it is put into practice. There area number of countries which have laws against Fgm. Some implement them and some do not. Laws or decrees against practice of Fgm. The following countries have specific laws and decrees against Fgm. Burkina Faso, Central African Republic, Djibouti, Egypt, Ghana, Cote d'Ivoire, Senegal, and Sudan. In other countries, national laws make provisions for protection against injury, even if Fgm is not specified. Laws and decrees have a variety of provisions that can be used to regulate or ban the practice of Fgm. They may, for example, prohibit all forms of Fgm. Burkina Faso, Guinea, Cote d'Ivoire, and Djibouti are only the most drastic types. Sudan. Provide for imprisonment and or fines for both those who perform the procedure and those who request, incite, or promote excision by providing money, goods, or moral support. Burkina Faso, Cote d'Ivoire, Ghana, and Djibouti. Forbid the practice of excision either in hospitals or in public or private clinics, except for medical indications and with occurrence of a senior obstetrician. Egyptian ministerial decree. The decree also forbids excision from being performed by non-physicians. Prohibit injury that impairs the function of the body, Penal Code, Egypt. Cruel and inhuman treatment, Penal Code, Guinea. And assault and grievous bodily harm, Penal Code, Mali. And we have an image of a woman who seems to be afraid, probably because she does not want her female genitals mutilated. Session 5. Human Rights and Fgm. Objectives. By the end of the session, students should be able to learn about how Fgm practice violates human rights, identify international conventions and declarations for the promotion and protection of the health and the child and the woman, including from Fgm. Introduction. Female genital mutilation is a human rights issue because the practice violates the rights of women and children. International human rights conventions oblige member states of the United Nations to respect and ensure the protection and promotion of human rights, including the rights to non-discrimination, to integrity of the person, and to the highest attainable standard of physical and mental health. How Fgm violates human rights. The evidence that Fgm damages the health of girls and women is well documented. Thus, the practice infringes their right to the highest attainable standard of physical, sexual, and mental health of women and girls. Individuals and organizations working against the practices of Fgm bear witness to the fact that the practice is associated with gender inequalities, a form of discrimination against girls and women, a form of torture, cruel, inhuman, and degrading treatment of girls and women, an abuse of the physical, psychological, and sexual health of girls and women. International conventions and declarations relevant to Fgm. A number of conventions and declarations provide for the promotion and protection of the health of the child and the woman. Some specifically provide for the elimination of Fgm. These are as follows. The Universal Declaration of Human Rights, 1948, claims the right of all human beings to live in conditions that enable them to enjoy good health and health care. The International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights and the International Covenant on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights, 1966, condemns discrimination on the grounds of sex and recognizes the universal right of all persons to the highest attainable standard of physical and mental health. The Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, 1979, can be interpreted as obliging states to take action against female genital mutilation, which is to take all appropriate measures, including legislation, to modify or abolish existing laws, regulations, customs, and practices which constitute discrimination against women. Article 2F. To modify the social and cultural patterns of conduct of men and women with this and customary and all Convention on the Rights of the Child, physical violence and maltreatment. Article 1993 states that violence against women must be understood to include physical and psychological violence occurring within the family, including female genital mutilation and other traditional practices harmful to women. The Program of Action of the International Conference on Population and Development, ICPD 1994, included a recommendation on female genital mutilation which commit governments and communities to, quote, urgently take steps to stop the practice of female genital mutilation and to protect women and girls from all such similar unnecessary practices. The Platform of Action of the Fourth World Conferences on Women, 1995, included a section on the girl, child, and urged governments, international organizations, and non-governmental groups to develop policies and programs to eliminate all forms of discrimination against the girl child, including female genital mutilation. The regulatory bodies of nurses and midwives and Fgm. Each country has a regulatory body for nurses and midwives. In some countries, this is a Nurses and Midwives Council or Board. In other countries, it is the Medical Council. Whatever the existing structure, this body that has legal mandate to take appropriate action against a professional nurse or midwife who acts against the standards set for professional conduct. The International Confederation of Midwives, ICM, and the International Council of Nurses, ICN, are the international regulatory bodies in all matters concerning professional midwifery and nursing, respectively. Both the ICM and the ICN have policies against the practice of FGM. Female genital organs are vital to the sexual response of women, and cutting or removal of even a few millimeters of highly sensitive tissue results in substantial damage. The experience of mutilation has a lasting impact psychologically, and the memory of the pain, trauma remains with girls and women throughout their lives. Two of the most important ethical principles of health professionals are to do no harm and to preserve healthy functioning bodily organs at all costs unless they carry a life-threatening disease. FGM entails the cutting of healthy functioning organs simply to comply with traditional ritual and with no medical justification. It is usually performed on children who have no awareness or power of consent. Furthermore, the consent of parents or guardians is not valid when the act performed is damaging, rather than beneficial to the child. It is also unethical for a health professional to damage a healthy organ in the name of culture. The argument put forward by health professionals is that an operation performed by a skilled person in hygienic conditions poses less risk to health and is therefore less damaging is not valid. Any health professional taking such action would be guilty of misconduct and liable to disciplinary action being taken against him/her by the regulatory bodies for health professionals. Such action can vary from warning to removal from the professional register and denial of license to practice. Health professionals can also be prosecuted under national laws of FGM. Oh, we are now at Module 2. If you recall from earlier, I believe there were 4 modules, and we have made it to the second one. So congratulations. Module 2. Community involvement in the prevention of female genital mutilation. This module is intended to prepare nurses and midwives for reaching out to communities for the prevention of FGM. This module consists of knowledge and skills relevant to the task, as well as strategies for involving different community groups, e.g., women, men, youth, and children, and community leaders. General objectives. On completion of the module, students should be able to describe the relationship between beliefs, values, attitudes, and the practice of FGM within specific groups of people. Recognize the ethical and legal implications of managing girls and women with FGM complications. Identify local and national and international organizations working to eliminate the practice of FGM. See list of national groups working against FGM in the reference document programs to date, what works and what doesn't. Work with individuals, families, and communities in the prevention of FGM. Essential competencies. Students are expected to acquire the following skills from this module: an understanding of the values, beliefs, and attitudes that underpin the practice of FGM and how these are formed. I'm so sorry. An understanding of the rules and standards governing professional practice and behavior in caring for women with FGM. I have the hiccups. How unprofessional. An understanding of and ability to apply ethical human rights and legal concepts to FGM prevention and care. A knowledge of local, national, and international organizations working against FGM. An understanding of the differences between professional, regulatory, and legal bodies in relation to management of FGM. An ability to identify key community groups/leaders who will be influential agents for change in FGM prevention. An ability to develop effective and appropriate strategies in working with groups to bring about change. An ability to apply information, education, and communication, IEC, and advocacy skills when working with communities on the prevention of FGM. Reference materials. The following materials are recommended for students. Additional reading. Towards the Healthy Women Counseling Guide, Ideas from Gender and Health Research Group, TDR, WHO, Geneva. Female genital mutilation, a joint World Health Organization, UNICEF, UNFPA statement, Geneva, World Health Organization, 1997. Female genital mutilation, an overview, Geneva, World Health Organization, 1998. A systematic review of the health complications of female genital mutilation, including sequelae in childbirth. Geneva, World Health Organization, 2000, WHO, FCH, WMH 00.2. Female genital mutilation, programs to date, what works and what doesn't. A review, Geneva, World Health Organization, 1999, World Health Organization, CHS, WMH, 1995, 99.5. Female genital mutilation, a handbook for frontline workers, Geneva, World Health Organization, 2000, World Health Organization, FCH, WMH, 00.5, Revision 1. Management of pregnancy, childbirth, and the postpartum period in the presence of female genital mutilation. Report of a WHO technical consultation. Geneva, 15 to 17, October 1997. Geneva, World Health Organization, 2001. WHO, FCH, GWH, 01.2. Students are also advised to read more on the following subjects: WHO Regional Plans, Regional Strategy for Reproductive Health, Regional Plans of Action on the Elimination of Fgm Practice, National Plans of Action on the Elimination of Fgm Practice, Effective Communication, Effective Advocacy, Mass Media Campaigns, and Lobbying. The sessions. Session 1, Beliefs, Values, and Attitudes. Session 2, Traditional Beliefs, Values, and Attitudes towards Fgm. Strategies for involving individuals, families, and communities in the prevention of Fgm. Strategies for involving political and government leaders in the prevention of Fgm. This module gives students the opportunity, through various exercises, to explore and clarify their own beliefs, values, and attitudes, and to appreciate the differences between their values and those of others. Students will still get an opportunity to visit communities to observe the interaction of people in real situations. The exercises are value clarification exercises and games, case studies exploring legal, ethical, and human rights issues. Session 1. Beliefs, values. I can't believe I still have hiccups. Session 1. Beliefs, values, and attitudes. Session objectives. By the end of the session, students should be able to, number 1, explain what is meant by beliefs, values, and attitudes. Discuss the origin of beliefs, values, and attitudes. Examine their own beliefs, values, and attitudes. Learning activities. Value clarification, exercises, and games. People are a complex mix of unique characteristics, which include physical characteristics as well as various beliefs, values, and attitudes. Traditions are guided by beliefs, and the practice of tradition is based on values and attitudes. Meaning of beliefs. The dictionary defines a belief as a conviction, a principle, or an idea accepted as true or real, even without positive proof. There are many belief systems, including religious beliefs, cultural beliefs, group, and individual beliefs. Examples of beliefs: the existence of God, the uvula causes coughing, and retards the growth of the children. I just verbatim here. If the clitoris touches the baby at birth, the baby will die. If a pregnant woman eats eggs, she will deliver a baby with no hair. An unexcised woman will have an overactive sex drive. Meaning of values. Dictionary defines values as the moral principles and beliefs of or accepted standards of a person or social group. Our values are the criteria against which we make decisions. We inherit many of our values from our family, but they are also influenced by religion, culture, friends, education, and personal experiences as we go through life. Meaning of attitudes. The dictionary defines attitude as a mental view or disposition. Attitudes are largely based on our personal values and perceptions. Origins of beliefs, values, and attitudes. Beliefs, values, and attitudes are formed and developed under a multitude of influences. Our parents, families, society, culture, traditions, religion, peer groups, media, TV, music, videos, magazines, advertisements, school, climate, environment, technology, politics, the economy, personal experiences, friends, and personal needs. They are also influenced by our age and gender. The development of a value system. A value system is a hierarchical set of beliefs and principles which influence an individual or group's outlook on life, attitude, and guide their behavior. A value system is not rigid, but will be subject to change over time in the light of new insights, information, and experiences. Steps in the development of a value system. Step 1. Knowing how one should behave or what is expected of one. This is the cognitive component. Step 2. Feeling emotionally about it. This is the affective component. Step 3. Taking emotion appropriative action. This is the behavioral component. Exploring personal beliefs, values, and attitudes. Exercises. The aim of these exercises is to enable students to explore their own values and look at them in relation to different values of other people. The following table clarifies the objective of each exercise, which is then described in detail below. Exercise. Walking survey. Objective. To create awareness that different people look at things differently, and that is all right. Clarifying personal values. To raise awareness of how we make assumptions about other people's beliefs, values, and attitudes, and our assumptions are not always correct. Name, tag, and patterns exercises. To assist students to identify their own values and to appreciate that our values influence the way we deal with clients and communities. Ranking values. To emphasize the fact that our values influence our practice in the way we address FGM issues and that different ways of doing things may be equally good. We can learn from each other. Walking survey exercise. This is a group exercise. 2 signs are posted on the wall. Agree, disagree. Read statements from a worksheet below, then move to the sign agree or disagree that reflects your opinion. Repeat this process with all statements. Representatives from each opinion group will then be asked to explain the reasons behind their choices. After the exercise, answer the following question. What was the most striking experience for you when you did this exercise, both as regards to your own reaction to the questions and that of others in the class? Were you surprised at the responses of your peers? How did you feel when your opinions differed from those from others? So here are the value statements on FGM, which you can either agree or disagree with. I am an impartial narrator, and I will not be giving my opinion. FGM improves fertility. That is number 1. Number 2, FGM prevents maternal and infant mortality. Number 3, FGM prevents promiscuity. 4, FGM helps the genitalia to be clean. Number 5, FGM prevents the genitalia from growing. Number 6, FGM is an essential part of our culture. Or no, not our culture, but a part of culture. Number 7, FGM is performed to please husbands. Number 8, FGM causes health, mental, and sexual problems for girls and women. Number 9, type 1 FGM does not lead to any complications, it is therefore acceptable. Number 10, performing FGM in a hospital environment is more hygienic and less painful for the client. Number 11, type 4 FGM is harmless. People should be allowed to continue. Number 12, FGM is not a health issue. Number 13, FGM is a violation of human rights. Number 14, FGM is a religious obligation. Now think back to those questions. Value clarification. Value clarification is a process that helps one identify the values that guide one's actions by examining how one feels about a range of different behaviors, thoughts, and objects. Value clarification is an important exercise since individuals are largely unaware of the motives that underlying their behavior and choices. Each person develops a unique set of values and attitudes that guide them through life and gives them their cultural identity. By understanding our own values and how they were formed, we as healthcare providers can appreciate and respect the experiences that shape the values and belief systems of the communities with which we work. The process of valuing. Before being able to clarify one's values, one must understand how the process of valuing occurs in individuals. Behavior scientists suggest the following steps. Number 1, one chooses the value freely and individually. Number 2, one chooses the value from among a range of alternatives. Number 3, one carefully considers the consequences of the choice. Number 4, one cherishes or prizes the value chosen. Number 5, one incorporates the value into behavior so that it becomes a standard. Exercise. This exercise is performed by pairs of students. Students will be asked to pair up, and the partners sit facing each other, but not speaking. Each student will be asked to do the following in turn. List 3 activities they think their partner would be most interested in doing after the session. Rank these activities in order of importance to the partner. List 3 activities they themselves would be most interested in doing after the session. Each student will be asked to read out loud the list she has made on behalf of her partner. Now the partner will be asked to read out the list she has made for herself. The process will continue until everyone has shared his or her lists. Seems like a gender contradiction. You may or may not find out the list you have made of your partner's interests is correct. The process of hearing someone else identify your interests may also elicit a range of feelings. You may, for instance, feel judged or misjudged. If you had difficulty identifying a fellow student's real interest, think how much more likely you are to be mistaken in identifying the needs and problems of clients about whom you may know very little, or in identifying the needs of a community in which you are not a member. This activity will have demonstrated how difficult it is to make correct assumptions about someone else's interest. It underlines the fact that there has to be dialogue as well. One should keep an open mind to really understand the beliefs and values of other people. Name tag exercise. Instructions to students. Take a piece of paper and write your name in the middle of it. In each of the four corners, write your responses to these four questions. What two things would you like your colleagues to say about you? What is the single most important thing you do or would like to do to make your relationship with clients positive? What do you do on a daily basis that shows you value your health? What are the three values you believe in most strongly? In the space around your name, write at least 6 adjectives you feel best describe you. And I guess here's the list you can choose from. Ambitious, assertive, concerned, reserved, opinionated, generous, independent, easily hurt, outgoing, reliable, indifferent, capable, self-controlled, suspicious, likable, fun-loving, solitary, dependent, intellectual, argumentative, dynamic, compromising, thoughtful, affectionate, unpredictable, logical, imaginative, self-disciplined, easily led, helpful, slow to relate, obedient, and moody. Take a close look at the responses to the questions and the ways which you describe yourself. What values do you think are reflected by your answers? This is the pattern exercise. Instructions to students. Look at the list of words above. That's what the list above was for. And draw a circle around the 7 words that best describe you as an individual. Underline the 7 words that most accurately describe you as a professional person. You may circle and underline the same words. Reflect on the following questions. What values are reflected in the patterns you have chosen? What is the relationship between these patterns and your personal values? Which patterns indicate inconsistencies in your attitude and behaviors? What patterns do you think would be most appropriate for health personnel, ones that they should cultivate? Ranking values exercise. Instructions to students. Rank in order of the following 12 actions that could be taken for the prevention of FGM by using 1 to indicate the action you feel is most important and 12 to indicate the action you feel is least important. Working with the community to prevent FGM. Listening empathetically to clients who have undergone FGM. Creating good interpersonal relationship with clients with FGM. Becoming emotionally involved with clients who have FGM complications. Teaching community about the need to eliminate FGM. Being honest and answering clients' questions. Seeing that community acts on professional advice. Helping to decrease a client's anxiety in relation to FGM complications. Making sure that community is involved in decision-making regarding FGM. Following legal mandates regarding the practice of FGM. Maintaining professional ethics all the time when dealing with clients who have undergone FGM. Being in the forefront of efforts to eliminate FGM. Examine the way in which you have ranked these options, and answer the following questions. What values can you identify based on your responses in this exercise? How do these values emerge in your behavior? Our attitudes, values, and beliefs greatly influence the service we provide to the clients and the community regarding FGM. If we try to impose our own attitudes and values on others, it is likely that we will be effective in our efforts to eliminate FGM. Our attitudes, beliefs, and values are influenced by our cultural beliefs, social background, age, gender, education, and other factors in life. We must not impose them on individual clients or communities. Better understanding of our own values, as well as those of our clients, will help us as health professionals to provide care that is relevant, of high quality, and acceptable to individual clients and communities. It is worth remembering that even in a group of people from similar backgrounds with similar educational levels and professions, there is likely to be a wide range of attitudes and values. If health workers can recognize their own biases or biases and understand the root of their own beliefs, they are more likely to be successful in working with communities. Listening to the community and to clients will give health workers a better idea of how best to communicate with them about the dangers of FGM. The best way to find out what someone's real interests are to talk directly with that person. We may think we see somebody clearly, but that is often not the case. No two people perceive things in exactly the same way. Values and attitudes are deeply rooted in the experiences of our lives, and it is not easy to change them. However, it is important to examine our values and attitudes and to make conscious decisions about these which we believe are worth hanging on to, and those which we feel may no longer be valid. Only when there is dialogue and openness are people likely to question their beliefs and values and be prepared to change. Session 2. traditional beliefs, values, and attitudes towards FGM. Session objectives. By the end of this session, students should be able to: number 1, discuss how beliefs, values, and attitudes influence the practice of FGM. Number 2, describe the process of assisting individuals, families, and communities to clarify their beliefs, values, and attitudes towards the practice of FGM. Number 3, describe the process of behavior change. Key references: Tradition, A Story of Mother Earth by E. Dorkanu. It was my hair. I got spooked by my hair. The Right Path to Health Education Through Religion, Islamic Ruling and Female Circumcision, World Health Organization, Regional Office for Eastern Mediterranean, 1996. Female Genital Mutilation, A Handbook for Frontline Workers, Geneva, World Health Organization, 2000. World Health Organization, FCH, WMH, 00.5, Revision 1. Introduction. As stated earlier, FGM is a deeply rooted tradition. Preceding sessions have enabled students to understand the concept of tradition. This session will give students an opportunity to apply this knowledge when working with individuals, families, and communities for the prevention of FGM. Beliefs, values, and attitudes that support FGM. The practice of FGM is supported by traditional beliefs, values, and attitudes. In some communities, it is valued as a rite of passage into womanhood, e.g., Kenya and Sierra Leone. Others value it as a means of preserving a girl's virginity until marriage, e.g. Sudan, Egypt, and Somalia. In each community where FGM is practiced, it is an important part of the culturally defined gender identity, which explains why many mothers and grandmothers defend the practice. They consider it a fundamental part of their own womanhood and believe it is essential to their daughters' acceptance into their society. In most of these communities, FGM is a prerequisite to marriage, and marriage is vital to a woman's social and economic survival. Clarifying health providers' own values. As a prerequisite for assisting others to understand their beliefs, values, and attitudes in relation to FGM, it is essential for nurses and midwives to understand their own feelings towards the practice. By understanding their own values, health professionals can better appreciate and respect the experiences that have shaped the values and belief systems of communities that practice FGM. Assisting individuals, families, and communities to clarify their beliefs, values, and attitudes in relation to FGM. The first step in assisting people to clarify their attitudes towards FGM is to find out from them the reasons why they support it, and what happens to those who do not go through it. After they've shared their views, the nurse/midwife can give information and education on the anatomy of FGM, on women's physiological and sexual and reproductive health, and the possible consequences of childbirth. The nurse/midwife should give groups an opportunity to discuss their own experiences of such health problems. She should then relate these problems to the practice of FGM. Often, women who have experienced such problems have not associated them with genital mutilation, but attributed them to God's will or witchcraft. The nurse/midwife should help people to identify good practice and dangerous practice, and to understand the implications of FGM on the health of girls and women. Assisting in the process of change. If people are already at the point of questioning their tradition and desiring change, the health professional should let them decide for themselves how to best stop the practice and what would be culturally appropriate. For example, communities that value FGM as a rite of passage into adulthood might wish to find other ways of marking or celebrating a girl's transition to adulthood. In order to assist in this process, the nurse/midwife should identify influential people in the community who may be able to act as change agents, support community members in the process of devising their own culturally appropriate strategies for change, and in implementing those strategies and monitoring their own performance. Give support at all stages of the process and acknowledge positive actions. Behavioral scientists have demonstrated that in changing any behavior, an individual goes through a series of steps. See Figure 3 on page 46. These are as follows: awareness, seeking information, processing the information and personalizing it, i.e., accepting its value for oneself, examining options, reaching a decision, trying out the behavior, receiving positive feedback or reinforcement, sharing the experience with others. According to this model, someone making the decision to reject FGM, whether that person is a mother, grandparent, father, husband, aunt, teacher, older sister, or a girl herself, will go through a process that starts with realizing that rejection of FGM is an option. This will be followed by the person finding such a choice desirable, reaching the decision to reject FGM, figuring out how to put this decision into practice, doing so and seeing what happens, and then receiving positive feedback from others that encourages the person to continue with their stand against FGM. The final stage is when the person feels confident enough in their decision to, quote, go public with it, i.e., share their reasoning and experiences with others, thus encouraging them to follow the example. This is called the multiplier effect. At every step, and whoever the person is, there is a risk of failure, and individuals must struggle with the personal and wider repercussions of the choice they have made. Community observation visit. A visit to a community will be organized so that students can attend a community meeting as observers. After the visit, they will be required to compile a report for presentation in class. Figure 3. Stages of behavior adoption. Sharing information / multiplier. Receiving positive enforcement, trying new behavior, reaching a decision, examining options, processing information / personalizing, seeking information, being aware of the problem. And we see a very happy woman with her seemingly ambivalent child. Student guideline for the community observation visit. Purpose of the visit: to observe the interaction between people in a community meeting, to identify the traditional beliefs, values, and attitudes demonstrating during the meeting, to observe how decisions are made. Questions to guide the observation. What was the structure of the meeting? For example, who was present and who led the meeting? What subjects were discussed? Who introduced the subjects for discussion? Who participated? What traditional beliefs, values, and attitudes were displayed during the meeting? What decisions were made? How were they made? By whom? And at the bottom of this page, we see yet another group of happy African women. Session 3. Strategies for involving individuals, families, and communities in the prevention of FGM. Session objectives. By the end of this session, students should be able to 1. Identify strategies for involving individuals, families, and communities in the prevention of FGM. Understand the theory behind communication for behavior changes, CBC. 3. Know how to conduct discussions with various target audiences. Key references: Female Genital Mutilation, A Handbook for Frontline Workers, WHO, FCH, WMH, 00.5, Revision 1, WHO, Geneva, 2000. Female Genital Mutilation, Programs to Date, What Works and What Doesn't, a Review, Geneva, World Health Organization, 1999, WHO, CHS, WMH, 99.5. WHO Film, Female Genital Mutilation, The Road to Change, WHO, Geneva, 2000. Introduction. Involving individuals, families, and communities in the prevention of FGM means working with them towards changing their beliefs, values, and attitudes towards the practice. The objective is to allow people to reach their own conclusion that change is necessary and thus have a sense of ownership of this decision. Strategies for involving individuals, families, and communities in FGM prevention. Primary objective is to encourage ownership of any decision reached by an individual, family, a group, or the entire community to change behavior regarding FGM. Health professionals are respected and listened to by individuals, families, and communities and have a major role to play in promoting education against FGM. Some are already members of non-governmental groups working to bring about change in their communities on the practice. You can assist individuals, families, and communities in the process of changing their behavior and practice as regards FGM by integrating education and counseling against FGM into day-to-day nursing and midwifery practice, identifying influential leaders and other key individuals and groups within the community with whom you can collaborate and could be used as change agents. Visiting individual people or groups in the community as appropriate. Establishing small focus groups for discussions. These discussions should be interactive and participatory, allowing the people themselves to do most of the talking. Assisting the people to think through the practice of FGM and its effect on health and human rights. Identifying resources with the community that could be used in the prevention program. Suggesting strategies for changing practice, e.g., a culturally acceptable alternative ceremony to mark the rite of passage from Kenya, and teaching women problem-solving skills from Tostan and Senegal. Supporting individuals and families to cope with the problems of FGM with adjusting to change. Because of the personal and cultural sensitivity of the subject, it is important that discussions be carefully planned and appropriately conducted. As a general rule, discussion should be held with individuals alone, unless and until people are ready to discuss the issue more openly in family or peer groups, or even with their spouses, for example. Separate discussions should be held with the target with the different target audiences, e.g. youth, men, community leaders, women, religious leaders. Strategies for involving men in the prevention of FGM. Identify appropriate forums for meeting the target group, e.g. men's organizations, social groups, and make contact with relevant people. Use community leaders and other influential people as entry point. Give clear information about the health effects and human rights implications of the practice, and identify and discuss misconceptions. Use film, shows, or posters as appropriate. Encourage everyone to participate in the discussions. Assist the men with developing their own strategies for prevention. Strategies for involving women. Identify appropriate forums for meetings with the target group and make contact with relevant people. Give clear information about the health effects and human rights implications of the practice, and identify and discuss misconceptions. Use a participatory approach in discussions. Address women's lack of power and self-esteem by teaching self-awareness, assertiveness, and problem-solving skills. Strategies for involving youth. Identify appropriate forums for meeting with young people, e.g. youth clubs, schools, colleges, and make contact with relevant people. Identify appropriate forums for meeting young girls separately in order to address sensitive issues of direct relevance to them, including teaching basic life skills. Give clear information about the health effects and human rights implications of the practice, and identify misconceptions. Use a participatory approach. Advocate for the issue of FGM to be addressed in the school health programs and included in the curricula of schools. Provide special support to girls who have already undergone FGM. Establish peer connection, i.e. youth-to-youth programs. Communication for behavior change, CBC, is different from communication simply to impart information, and for this, interpersonal skills are especially effective. Interpersonal communication is a process whereby two or more people discuss an issue together to try and reach a mutual understanding. Communicating with target groups. In communication with the various audiences, it is important to assess and decide on appropriate ways of communicating. For example, one-to-one discussions, group discussions, e.g. with all of the members of a family or a youth group, mass family campaigns, use of mass media, e.g. radio, television, magazines, newspapers, journals, use of drama, dance, song, storytelling. Know your audience. This means identifying the target group of e.g. individuals, family members, women or youth or men's group, community leaders, and knowing their background, education level, language, age, etc. Find out more about the practice of FGM locally. Ask the individual or group the following. What type of FGM is performed locally? What are the reasons for practicing FGM? What problems or complications do people experience during or after the procedure? How are they handled? Who performs FGM? What happens to girls/women who do not comply with this tradition? Know your material. Have the information and materials well prepared and readily available. Make contact with appropriate people to set up meetings, e.g. community and religious leaders, health authorities, etc. Create and maintain trusting relationships. In communicating for behavior change, it is very important to establish a rapport with the target audience. Creating a trusting relationship necessitates showing respect for people's beliefs and values regarding FGM. Greet people in a culturally accepted manner. Always introduce yourself and others accompanying you. Make sure people are comfortable with you and with the setting before opening a dialogue with them. Address people by their names and or titles according to the accepted norm. Present clear and appropriate information. This means assessing the level of knowledge about FGM in the target audience. Address introducing the topic and the objective of the discussion. Speaking slowly and clearly, using simple but accurate terms. Most people prefer the term circumcision to mutilation when speaking in English, as the idea that they are mutilated or that their parents or society are mutilators can be offensive. The best way to refer to the procedure is to use local terminology, using posters and pictures to illustrate a point as appropriate, since some people may be illiterate. Selecting the most important messages to be delivered, as too much information may confuse people. Giving out adequate information for reading, e.g. posters, leaflets. Ensuring people have understood the most important information, giving ample time for people to ask questions and clarify points, informing people where they can find more information if they wish, inviting individuals with personal questions or those who need counseling to come and discuss things privately. Session 4. Strategies for involving political and government leaders in the prevention of FGM. Before we continue on to Session 4, I would just like to note that we are currently past the halfway point of this handbook. Congratulations for making it this far. By the end of this session, students should be able to describe the role of local and national governments in the prevention of Fgm, describe the role of international organizations in the prevention of Fgm, identify political and community leaders who can help in the prevention of Fgm, identify and use strategies for involving political and government leaders in the prevention of Fgm. Introduction. The involvement of political and government leaders in the effort to eliminate Fgm is very important, as they are the major opinion leaders and decision makers in society and are responsible for policy and lawmaking. Over the last decade, many organizations and individuals have become involved in community-based activities aimed at the elimination of female genital mutilation. These efforts have raised awareness of Fgm worldwide and brought the issue of the attention of influential people at all levels of society in the Fgm practicing nations. From village leaders to national government ministers, elimination of the practice depends on the concerted effort of everyone with an interest in protecting the health of women and girls. The role of governments, national and local organizations in Fgm prevention. In countries where Fgm is practiced, some national governments have made a clear and public commitment to eliminate female genital mutilation through laws, professional regulations and programs, and by signing international declarations that condemn the practice. Some national governments have begun developing policies and plans of action for eliminating the practice, including setting targets for elimination and developing national level and district level indicators for monitoring and evaluating programs. There is a move in some countries where Fgm is practiced towards integrating efforts to prevent female genital mutilation into mainstream health and education programs, and towards building partnerships with non-governmental groups and communities in order to bring about a change. The launching in March 1997 of the WHO African Region's Plan of Action to Accelerate Elimination of Female Genital Mutilation in Africa for speeding up efforts to eliminate female genital mutilation has given a boost to national government commitment. Involving political leaders in the prevention of Fgm. Identify influential people in the local and national politics and civic structures. These might include parliamentarians, who can be encouraged to advocate for laws and policies on Fgm, women's leaders, youth leaders, head of professional association, such as lawyers, physicians, nurses, and midwives, who can be encouraged to create pressure groups to lobby government. Make contact with relevant people. Oh, I have an alarm. 5 a.m. Make contact with relevant people and organize seminars or workshops to inform people of the issues surrounding Fgm, e.g., its health consequences, human rights implications. Lobby influential people in all relevant forums, e.g., political gatherings, professional conferences, to encourage them to pass laws, develop policies, and become actively involved in efforts to eliminate Fgm. The greater the opposition to Fgm among the general public, the more likely governments are to take action to end the practice. Tips for effective communication. Clarify your own attitudes towards Fgm. Know your subject. Have the facts clear in your mind, as well as the messages you wish to communicate. Speak clearly, with confidence and conviction. Emphasize and repeat important points. Use participatory approach. Make the person/people you are addressing believe they are especially important in this campaign and have the power to make a difference. Suggest a plan of action and agree on a follow-up date to discuss progress. Have determination, patience, and never give in to despair, no matter how slow the progress may be. Advocacy. Advocacy means speaking up or making a case in favor of a specific cause in order to win support for it. The most important strategies in advocacy are building coalitions with people, e.g. NGOs, or institutions with similar interests. Effective use of mass media. Working with communities directly affected, building coalitions. Partnership with others active in the same field has several advantages. It allows for the sharing of experience and expertise and the pooling of resources. Besides, there is a strength in numbers. However, working with other groups is a delicate exercise with potential for conflict. It requires patience and sensitivity towards each other's views. For coalition building, you should identify other individuals or groups interested in stopping the practice of Fgm within your community, fix up a meeting with the leaders to find out about their activities, e.g., how they work, who they work with, and what their objectives are, and give information about your organization's activities. Set up collaborative activities. International organizations working to eliminate Fgm include the United Nations agencies WHO, UNICEF, UNFPA, and UTFEM, Inter-Africa Committee on Traditional Practices, IAC, Forward, Rainbow, Path, Equality Now, Amnesty International, AI. International Federation of Gynecologists and Obstetricians, FIGO, International Confederation of Midwives, ICM, Medical Women's International Association, Africa Midwives Research Network, AMRN. Working with mass media. Articles published in newspapers or stories broadcast on radio and television spread the message far and wide. Thus, building partnerships with media organizations is a valuable exercise. The first task of such a partnership is to educate relevant people in the media about FGM. Other forms of mass media, such as drama, song, and poster and leaflet campaigns, can also be used to disseminate information, can be targeted at specific audiences, e.g. youth, women, if desired. When working with the media, writing skills may be necessary. Messages should be clear, concise, and convincing, and delivered in such a way that they catch the attention of the reader, listener, or viewer. Messages should be tested for their effect before being delivered to a wide audience. Working with communities, change will only occur when people who practice FGM are convinced of the need for eliminating it. Therefore, working with communities to raise awareness of the issues and educating and informing them is a vital part of any advocacy program. Steps in the advocacy process. Information gathering and analysis. Before launching an advocacy program, it is necessary to collect reliable information on FGM, including the extent of the practice locally and nationally, who performs it, the rationale for the practice, the age at which the excision is performed, and what is known of the health and social consequences. Detailed background information is essential in formulating appropriate messages for the advocacy campaign. Identification of target audiences and key individuals for advocacy. The setting of objectives for each component of the advocacy program. The development of an action plan, identifying the target audiences, the activities to be carried out, their objectives, and who will be responsible for what. Monitoring and evaluation. The advocacy program must be monitored using clearly developed indicators and objectives. Lobbying. Lobbying means applying pressure to try to influence people's opinions and actions. It is frequently a slow, painstaking process requiring great patience and persistence on the part of the lobbyists. For successful lobbying, you should identify decision-makers and influential people and make contact with them. People can be reached through their wives or husbands, relatives, friends, secretaries, or colleagues where necessary. Make sure you are clear about what needs to be done and what role they could play. Organize a meeting with them, and use tactics and skills described as above to convince them of your case. Suitable forums for lobbying include, for example, parliamentary and other political meetings, religious gatherings, relevant international conferences. Basic requirement for elimination of FGM. The elimination of FGM is a painstaking process that requires long-term commitment and the laying of the foundation that will support successful behavior change. That foundation includes strong and capable anti-FGM programs at the national, regional, and local levels, a committed government that supports FGM elimination with policies, laws, and resources making FGM a mainstream issue, integrating FGM prevention into all relevant and non-government programs, e.g. health, family, planning, education, social services, human rights, religious programs, etc. Healthcare providers at all levels who are trained to recognize and manage all complications of FGM and to prevent the practice. Good coordination among governmental and non-governmental agencies. Advocacy that encourages a supportive policy and legal environment for the elimination of FGM. Increased support for programs and public education. Empowerment of women. And here we are. We have made it to Module 3. Congratulations for making it to Module 3. If I recall correctly, there are 4 modules, so we are, in a sense, 75% of the way done, or I guess 50% of the way done, even though we are at page 55. Module 3. Management of girls and women with FGM complications. This module is intended to prepare nurses and midwives to identify and manage the physical, psychosocial, and sexual complications that are consequences of female genital mutilation. General objectives. On completion of this module, students should be able to recognize complications due to Fgm, manage women with physical, psychosocial, and sexual complications due to Fgm, demonstrate skills in counseling, demonstrate skills in opening up Type 3 Fgm, refer clients for further management when the complications are beyond their competence. Essential competencies. Students are expected to acquire the following skills from this module: ability to carry out an interview with a girl or woman with Fgm, ability to perform physical assessment and identify complications resulting from Fgm, ability to conduct a pelvic examination to determine the type of Fgm and physical complications, ability to adapt family planning methods to ensure effective family planning care to a woman who has undergone Fgm, ability to recognize and provide support, appropriate information, counseling, support, treatment, and or referral for the further management of physical, sexual, and psychosocial complications of Fgm. Ability to manage the opening up of the infibulated girl or women, including recognizing that this is necessary, making a referral as appropriate, providing pre-operative care and counseling, performing the procedure where appropriate, managing post-operative care. Reference materials. Following materials are recommended for students' additional reading: Female Genital Mutilation, a joint WHO, UNICEF, UNFPA statement. Geneva, World Health Organization, 1997. Female Genital Mutilation, an overview. Geneva, World Health Organization, 1998. A systematic review of the health complications of female genital mutilation, including sequelae in childbirth. Geneva, World Health Organization, 2000, WHO, FCH, WMH 00.2, Female Genital Mutilation, a handbook for the frontline workers, Geneva, World Health Organization, 2000, WHO, FCH, WMH 00.5, Revision 1. Management of pregnancy, childbirth, and postpartum period of the presence of female genital mutilation, report of the FH of a WHO technical consultant. Geneva, 15 through 17, October 1997, Geneva, World Health Organization, 2001, WHO, FCH, WH 01.2. Female genital mutilation, the prevention and management of the health complications policy guidelines for nurses and midwives. WHO, FCH, GWH 01.5, WHO, Geneva 2005. Tubia, NA, a practice for healthcare providers caring for women with circumcision. Rainbow Publication, New York, 1999. The sessions. Session 1. Assessment to identify physical complications of Fgm. Session 2. Management of clients with physical complications of Fgm. Session 3. Using counseling skills. Session 4. Identifying psychosocial and sexual problems. Session 5. Management of psychosocial and sexual problems. Session 6. Demonstrating referral skills. Session 7. Family planning use in the presence of Fgm. Session 8. Procedure of opening up Type 3 Fgm. And we have what appears to be a woman who seems rather defensive. I do not know what she is holding in her hand, but it appears to be a club of some sort. Session 1. Assessment to identify physical complications of Fgm. Session objectives. By the end of this objective, students should be able to 1. Carry out an interview with a client with Fgm complications. 2. Carry out a physical examination to identify the type of Fgm performed and any complications present. Key references: systematic review of the health complications of female genital mutilation, including sequelae in childbirth. Geneva, World Health Organization, 2000, WHO, FCH, WMH 00.2. Female genital mutilation, a handbook for frontline workers. Geneva, World Health Organization, 2000. WHO, FCH, WMH 00.5, Revision 1. Tubia, NA, a practical manual for healthcare providers caring for women with circumcision. Rainbow Publication, New York, 1999. Introduction. Assessment is a procedure carried out by a service provider to identify any deviations from the normal in the status of the client. Assessment is done using the following senses: seeing, hearing, touching, and smelling. In clients with Fgm, assessment of the condition entails interviewing the client by asking relevant questions, history taking, inspecting the genitalia for appearance, clinical examination. Creating a trusting relationship. For the purposes of history taking and clinical examination, it is crucial that you establish a trusting relationship with clients. This means showing empathy, i.e. using interpersonal skills to create a rapport with client, maintaining confidentiality, showing respect, having patience. Taking a history. Success in history will depend largely on good use of interpersonal communication skills to create a trusting relationship. Women who have undergone FGM will most likely come to a health facility for other health reasons than FGM. The healthcare personnel has to address the health problems presented. However, there will be need to be alert to the fact that the woman may have undergone FGM. They will have to find out by asking direct or indirect questions. The procedure is as follows. Greet the client in the culturally accepted manner. Ask her to sit comfortably and near facing you. Introduce yourself and address the client by her name. Begin by asking general questions such as, how are you? How is the family? Do you have any information you would like to share with me? When the patient is relaxed and seems ready to talk about personal matters, ask her tactfully about any operation she has had, including FGM. Use terminology which is familiar to the client. Ask her if she would like to share any information about the operation and any problems she may have due to FGM, and reassure her that you are comfortable dealing with her condition and that it is not a barrier to her getting services. Let the client express her feelings and give you the information she wants to share. If she starts crying, be patient and give support. Listen carefully and empathize with her. Show concern to the client and let her know you can help her. Encourage the client to talk by using facilitation and skills such as nodding and saying making eye contact when you look at her. Clients must be very slow in sharing information about excisions. Maybe. Be patient and do not force her to speak. If the client is not ready to share information yet, make an appointment with her for another visit. Once it has been established that the woman has undergone FGM, this information and the subsequent clinical examination should be handled with professionalism and discretion. Information, the type and the complication observed should be recorded as required by the policy of the health institution. Clinical examination. Important note, examining the genitalia of a woman who has undergone FGM can be very embarrassing for the client. Explaining the procedure slowly with patience and empathy, respected with confidentiality, will help build her trust. This should be remembered in any situation where examination of genitalia is needed, because one might not have had a detailed discussion with a woman beforehand to know she had FGM. In some places, consent from... Oops, what? Where? Oh no. I went too far. This is not good. Okay. In some places, consent from the partner or husband may be necessary before examining the genitalia of a woman. The client should be made to feel safe, feel confident that she is in safe hands, will not be judged, and will not be made an object of curiosity or put on display. Women have reported that one of the most traumatic experiences they have had was during a pelvic examination by a health provider unfamiliar with the practice. They were found to be excised, and when the health provider called in the rest of the staff to look at her mutilated genitals. Preparation for clinical examination includes preparation of client, i.e., explain the procedure carefully and fully, and get her consent or that of her partner if applicable. Preparation of equipment is essential to use sterile equipment and materials. Procedure is as follows. Explain procedure to the client in detail and check that she has understood. Ask client's consent to examine her. If there is another member of health staff present, explain the reason for his or her presence to the client and ask her for permission for the person to be present. The client has the right to refuse and must be respected. The nurse/midwife should emphasize that care is not conditional and the woman's consent to allow others to attend the examination. Ensure privacy and confidentiality. Instruct the client to take off her underwear and help her lie down on the examination couch with her legs apart and flexed. Expose the necessary area for inspection and examination. Cover the client until you are ready for the examination. Wash your hands thoroughly and put on gloves. Expose the genitalia. Inspect the external genitalia to identify type of FGM and to check for ulcers, infection, abscesses, or any abnormal swelling. Tactfully ask the client about her experiences of urination, menstruation, and sexual intercourse, if relevant. Most of the time, there is no need to introduce fingers into the vagina, as most of complications can be detected by the inspection of the external genitalia. But if necessary, follow the following steps. Try to introduce the tip of the index finger slowly, then introduce the whole finger very slowly if the introitus allows. If there is room for more than one finger, introduce a second finger very slowly and observe the client's reaction. as this may cause pain. Respect the client's reactions. In cases of type 3 FGM, infibulation, the introitus may be very tight and may not allow the introduction of even the tip of a finger. In such cases, you should not attempt to introduce any fingers. After completing the procedure, thank the client for her cooperation. In cases where you have introduced fingers, look for abnormal vaginal discharge before taking off gloves. Take gloves and wash hands. Help the client to a sitting position, assist her with dressing if appropriate, and seat her comfortably for the next step of the procedure. Record your findings and share these with the client. All equipment used should be put to soak in the disinfectant for half an hour before sterilization. See WHO International Precautions on Prevention of Hospital Infections. And here we have what appears to be an African woman tending to her baby. Baby seems sad. African woman seems like she knows what she's doing. We're at page 60. We're, 3/5 of the way through this manual. I think I can. I know I can. We got this. Session Objectives. By the end of this session, students should be able to manage girls and women with physical complication due to FGM. Refer girls and women for further management to the next level of care. Introduction. Managing physical complications varies from giving simple support to giving counseling or to surgical interventions. During her assessment of the chart, the nurse/midwife should identify what kind of care is appropriate for her. Managing immediate and short-term complications. Bleeding. Bleeding commonly occurs during or immediately following FGM. The management of bleeding associated with the excision is the same as the management of bleeding in any other circumstances. The procedure is as follows. Inspect the site of the bleeding. Clean the area. Apply pressure at the site to stop bleeding by packing with sterile gauze or pad. Assess the seriousness of the bleeding and condition of the girl or woman. If client is in shock, see instructions under shock. Necessary, replace fluid loss. You are managing the client at a primary level, give IV fluids, monitor, and transfer her immediately to a secondary level facility for blood transfusion if necessary. If you are seeing her at a secondary level facility where blood transfusion is not available, but is required because of severe bleeding, transfer her to a tertiary level facility immediately. It may be the policy of the health institution to prescribe vitamin K, especially in the case of babies. If so, take action as required by the policy. A traditional compound, e.g. containing ash, herb, soil, cow dung, may be applied to the wound. This can lead to tetanus or other infection. Therefore, you should give tetanus vaccine and antibiotics in accordance with national guidelines. If the problem is not serious, clean the site with antiseptic and advise client or attendants to keep it dry. Follow up client to monitor progress by making an appointment for her to return so that you can check her progress. Severe pain and injury to tissues. Usually pain is immediate and can be so severe that it causes shock. The management of pain associated with FGM is the same as pain management under any other circumstances. The procedure is as follows. Assess the severity of the pain and injury. Give strong analgesic and treat injury. Clean site with antiseptic and advise the client or her attendants to keep it dry. If the client is in shock, see instructions under shock. If there is no relief from pain, refer client to medical attention. If injury is very extensive, refer client for surgical intervention. Shock. Shock can occur as a result of severe bleeding and or pain. The management of shock associated with FGM is the same as the management of shock under any other circumstances. The procedure is as follows. Assess the severity of shock by checking vital signs. Treat for shock by raising the client's extremities above the level of her head to allow blood to drain to the vital centers in the brain. Cover the client to keep her warm. If she is having difficulty breathing, administer oxygen. Have a resuscitation tray nearby. Give IV fluids to replace lost fluid. Check vital signs and record every quarter of an hour, 15 minutes. If client's condition does not improve, refer her for medical attention. Infection and septicemia. Infection may occur as a result of unhygienic surroundings and dirty instruments used to carry out FGM. The management of this condition is as follows. Inspect the vulva carefully for signs of an infected wound and to check for anything that might be contributing to the infection, such as the obstruction of urine. Take a vaginal swab and a urine sample to test for the presence of infection and to identify the organisms involved. Any obstruction found should be removed. If the wound is infected, it shall be cleaned and left dry. The client should be treated with antibiotic and analgesic. Follow up client after 7 days to assess the progress. If infection persists, if the infection persists, refer the client for medical attention. Urine retention. Urine retention may be a result of injury, pains, and fear of passing urine, or occlusion of the urethra during infibulation. Management of this condition is as follows. Carry out an assessment to determine cause. Use appropriate nursing skills and techniques to encourage the client to pass urine, such as turning on a water tap. If she is unable to pass urine because of pain and fear, give her strong analgesics. Give the client personal encouragement and support. If inability to pass urine is due to infibulation, opening up the infibulation, see procedure for opening up type 3 FGM after counseling the client or her attendant if the client is a child. If retention is due to injury of the urethra, refer to surgical intervention under anesthetic. Anemia. Anemia can be due to bleeding or infection, or it can be due to malaria, especially in children. Management of this condition is as follows. Assess the severity of anemia in blood for HB and grouping. If anemia is mild, give folic acid and iron tablets and advise on a nutritious diet. In cases of malaria, treat appropriately. If anemia is severe, refer for medical attention. Managing long-term physical complications. Keloid formation. Keloid formation may form in the scar tissue and may cause obstruction to the introitus. Management of this condition is as follows. Inspect client's genitalia to access size of keloid. If the keloid is small, advise the woman to leave it undisturbed and reassure that it will not cause harm. If the keloid is large, causing difficulties during intercourse or possible obstruction during delivery, the woman should be referred to a specialist experienced in removing keloid scars. The presence of appearance of a keloid may cause excessive distress to a woman, in which case you should consider referring her for surgery or psychological reasons. Cysts. Dermoid or inclusion cysts caused by a fold of skin becoming embedded in the scar, or sebaceous cysts caused by a blockage of the sebaceous gland duct, are common complications of all forms of FGM. A woman may present with these early on when they are at the size of a pea, or they have grown to the size of a tennis ball or even a grapefruit. Management of cysts is as follows. Inspect the site to assess the size and type of cysts. Small and non-infected cysts may be left alone after counseling client to accept the condition. Alternatively, the client may be referred to them under local or regional anesthesia. However, before inferring with a small cyst, it is important to find out the procedure could result in further scarring of existing sensitive tissue. If such a risk exists, the woman should be fully informed and should be allowed to choose for herself whether to proceed with removal with full understanding of the risk involved. In the case of a large or infected cyst, the client must be referred for excessive or marsupialization. The procedure is usually performed under general anesthesia. During the procedure, great care should be taken to avoid further damage to a sensitive tissue or injury to the blood or nerve supply of the area. What's next? We got clitoral neuroma. The clitoral nerve may be trapped in the fibrous tissue scar of the scar following clitoridectomy. This may result in an extremely sharp pain over the fibrous swelling anteriorly. With such a condition, intercourse or even the friction of underpants will cause pain. Management of the condition is as follows. Check for presence of neuroma. A neuroma cannot usually be seen, but can be detected by carefully touching the area around the clitoral scar with a delicate object and asking the client if she feels any pain. Under general anesthetic, the neuroma can be felt as a small pebble under the mucosa. Advise the woman to wear loose pants and give her something to apply to the area, for example, lidocaine cream. If the symptoms are severe, refer the client to a surgical excision of the neuroma. This is not commonly required, and the woman should be carefully counseled before such a step is taken, since the symptoms may be psychosomatic, the result of traumatic experience of excision, or the fear of sexual intercourse. Vulval abscesses. A vulval abscess may develop as a result of deep infection due to faulty healing or an embedded stitch. Management is as follows. Inspect the site to assess the extent of the problem. Dress the abscess with a local application to relieve pain and localize the swelling. Refer for surgical intervention, which may involve incision and drainage of the abscess under general anesthesia or administration of antibiotics, as indicated by swab culture. Urinary tract infection, UTI. Urinary tract infections are a common symptom of women who have undergone type 3 Fgm. This can be due to the obstruction of the urine in the infibulated women in the presence of urinary stones or previous injury to the urethra. Oh, come on. I accidentally moved down too far again. Oops. I'm tired. Let's see, what was I talking about? The last thing I remember was we were talking about urinary tract infections. Yes, it is past? No. God, come on, just play nice. There we go. This can be So management is as follows. Inspect the vulva carefully to establish the cause of infection. If infibulation is the cause, counsel the woman or her attendant on the need to open up the infibulation. Carry out urine analysis to identify specific infection for appropriate antibiotics. Give antibiotics and urinary antiseptics. Advise the patient to take plenty of water. If UTI is recurrent, refer client to medical attention. Chronic pelvis infection. This condition may be the result of obstruction of the vaginal secretions due to the occlusion of the vaginal orifice in infibulated women, or due to the presence of vaginal stones or vaginal stenosis. Management is as follows. Identify type of Fgm and likely cause of the problem. If the client has type 3 Fgm, counsel her and or her attendants on the need to open up the infibulation and seek out their informed consent. Take vaginal swab for culture and sensitivity. Give antibiotics that are appropriate and available locally, e.g., tetracycline 500 milligrams 6 hourly for 10 days, or doxycycline at 100 milligrams twice daily for 10 days. If the infection is fungal, Flagyl may be prescribed. If the client has a husband or partner, treat him also for the same infection. If the symptoms persist, refer client for medical intervention. If the cause of the infection is obstruction due to stones or injury, refer client for surgical intervention. Oh, this is the fun one. Infertility. Usually, infertility is a complication of pelvic infection and can be primary or secondary infertility. In rare cases, it is due to failure of penetration because of how very tight the vaginal opening is. Management is as follows. Take a history and inspect the genitalia to identify the problem. If infertility is a result of failure to penetrate, counsel the client and her partner on the need for surgical opening up. Otherwise, refer clients to a gynecologist for further management. Fistulae and incontinence. Viscovaginal, VVF, or rectovaginal, RVF, fistulae resulting in incontinence occur as a result of injury to the external urethral meatus or obstructed labor. Management of those conditions is as follows. Assess the child or woman who identify cause of incontinence and type of Fgm. Ascertain the severity and levels of fistula by dye tests. In cases of stress incontinence, counsel the client and start a program of exercises to strengthen the pelvic muscles, or refer a client to a urologist for treatment. Clients with a VVF or RVF must be referred for specialist repair. Client has infection, give antibiotics as appropriate. Vaginal obstruction. Partial or total obstruction of the vagina may occur as part of a result of infibulation, vaginal stenosis, or the presence of vaginal hematoma. Condition may be accompanied by hematoclops, hematocalopus, accumulation of trapped menstrual blood. Unmarried girls may be suspected of being pregnant because the amenorrhea and swelling of the abdomen. There are reported cases where young girls have been punished for this condition. Management is as follows. Assist the client to identify the problems and type of FGM. If the client has been infibulated, counsel on the need for opening up. The client has hematoclops, or stones or stenosis, or refer her for surgical intervention under general anesthetic. In cases of vaginal stenosis, surgical intervention may involve dilation. Menstrual disorders. Many excised women report severe dysmenorrhea without menstrual regularity. Possible causes of this problem are an increase in pelvic congestion due to infection or other unknown causes, or anxiety over the state of the genitals, sexuality, or fertility. Management is as follows. Try to establish the cause of dysmenorrhea by taking a history and performing a clinical examination of the client's genitalia. Counsel the client to find out how she feels and counsel her in dealing with the situation. Give antispasmodic drugs to relieve pain. God, oh my God. This is kind of frustrating. The way I'm holding my phone keeps scrolling down at a very fast rate. If dysmenorrhea is due to the accumulation of menstrual blood flow as a result of infibulation, counsel the client on the need for opening up. If the condition is severe, refer to a gynecologist for further management. Ulcers. Vaginal vulval ulcers may develop as a result of the formation of urea crystals in urine trapped under the scar tissue. Management of the condition is as follows. Counsel the client on the need for opening up her infibulation and advise her that her vulva should be kept open thereafter. Perform the procedure after getting her informed consent. Apply antibiotics locally with or without 1% hydrocortisone cream. If the ulcer is chronic and fails to heal, refer client for surgical exclusion of the tough fibrous walls. Documentation of FGM. Always record FGM type and complications presented. And we have a picture of what appears to be a child sitting on sand, arguably could be eating the sand, has fingers in her mouth. It's possible. Wouldn't put it past her. Session 3. Using counseling skills. Session objectives. By the end of this session, students should understand the basic principles of counseling, understand the qualities and skills required for effective counseling, be able to demonstrate the use of counseling skills with clients. And this is page 65. It is 5:30 p.m. Feeling the burn. Introduction. Counseling is defined as helping someone explore problems so that they may cope more effectively. As mentioned earlier, counseling is an important element of the management of FGM complications. Counseling of a girl or woman with FGM complications should be strictly confidential. If the client has a partner, he should be counseled separately if necessary, till the right moment arrives for them to be counseled as a couple. The aim of counseling is to help a client, couple, or a family come to terms with or solve the problem that they have. During counseling sessions, it is important to build a trusting relationship with clients so that they feel safe in discussing their concerns with you as a counselor. Important factors for achieving this are privacy and confidentiality. Make sure that counseling is carried out in a room where nobody can come in without permission and where the discussion cannot be overheard by other people. Patience. You should be relaxed and not pressed for time. Carefully considered seating plan. Counselor and client should be on the same level, seated close to each other with no barriers between them so that the counselor can lean towards the client to demonstrate attentiveness and support during the discussion. Eye contact. It is important to look at the client directly and to observe her carefully so that you become aware of her mannerisms and body language, body cues, and these may tell a different story from her words. Remember the saying, actions speak louder than words. You should not look her straight in the eye all the time, but observe the whole person and her actions. Attentive listening. Observe the client's tone of voice as well as what she is saying, as this may tell you more than her words. You should allow the client to do most of the talking, but try to paraphrase what she said from time to time to check you have understood her correctly. Showing concern, otherwise known as empathizing. Try to put yourself in the client's position and show that you care. Appropriate facial expressions. You should be aware of your facial expression and ensure that it is appropriate to what is being said. Smile when you greet the client, but if she cried during the session, your facial expression should show sympathy and concern. Respect. You should always show respect for your clients as dignified human beings with their own religious and cultural beliefs. A non-judgmental attitude. It is very important for you not to be judgmental. As counselors, you need to be aware of your own biases and prejudices so that they do not interfere with the counseling process. Preparation for counseling session. Find a suitable setting. It should be a room where you will not be disturbed by other people, which can be locked if necessary, and where privacy and confidentiality can be assured. At the place, there should be comfortable seating. Confirm the appointment with your client and make sure you have both allowed adequate time for discussion. The counseling session. Welcome the client and her partner/husband, if appropriate, and invite her to sit down. Read or introduce yourself in the culturally appropriate manner. Ask client her name and ask if you can help her with anything. Let the client talk and encourage her by nodding and saying "ah" from time to time. Give client information about the services available in your clinic or ward or center and the staff who will care for her. Let the client explain her concerns and be patient as she may. Find it hard to express her feelings and experiences and feelings. Listen carefully and observe nonverbal cues, e.g. body language, tone of voice, to enhance your understanding of the client's situation. Paraphrase your client's information from time to time to check that you have heard her correctly and avoid misunderstanding. Show concern throughout the session by being attentive and making eye contact from time to time. Empathize with client when she is describing a disturbing experience which may make her weep. Explain to client how you can help. If the purpose of counseling is to raise with the client the need for opening up her infibulated vulva after type 3 Fgm, give her detailed information about the procedure and advise her that her genitalia will be changed after the operation. Give her information about her aftercare. See information on opening up type 3 Fgm. If counseling for psychosocial or sexual problems, ask questions as appropriate to draw out as much information from the client as possible about her problems. Advise her that there are various ways of conducting sexual relationships. Teach her appropriate techniques by which both she and her partner may be aroused. If she expresses a wish for her partner to be involved in the discussion, draw him into the counseling session also. It is also known that Fgm does not necessarily lead to an inability of a woman to achieve orgasm or enjoy sex. Therefore, sexual problems may be due to fear of pain rather than any physical malfunction. However, if sexual intercourse is not possible as a result of infibulation or extensive scarring to this tissue, opening the tight introitus should be addressed during counseling. Assist the client and make her partner where appropriate to make an informed decision on the steps taken to solve the problem. Assist them on their decision by giving advice on how to proceed. Give client an appointment for another counseling or follow-up session to prepare for the next step. If the problem persists, refer to a specialist. Please note, a client's problem may not be resolved in a single counseling session. Several sessions may be required for her to resolve a relationship problem and reach optimal psychological well-being. You should be prepared to spend as much time as necessary for this process. Role play. Students should practice counseling using role play following situations as either a counselor or client. Counseling a client with a vesicovaginal fistula, VVF. Counseling a client with vulval keloids. Counseling a client with hematocolyps, obstructed menstrual flow. Counseling a client for infertility. Counseling a client who is experiencing dyspareunia, difficulty with sexual intercourse. Counseling a client who is having problems passing urine. And counseling a client who is very depressed. And here we have yet another image of a bunch of women, and they seem to be enjoying themselves. This, for those of you who are unaware, is session 4. Identifying psychosocial and sexual complications of FGM. By the end of this session, students will be able to assess girls and women with psychosocial problems associated with FGM. Identify psychosocial complications associated with FGM. Key references: a systematic review of the health complications of female genital mutilation, including sequelae in children in childbirth. Geneva, World Health Organization, 2000. WHO, FCH, WMH 00.2. Management of pregnancy and the postpartum period of the presence of female genital mutilation. Report of a WHO technical consultant. Geneva, 15-17 October 1997. Geneva World Health Organization, 2001. WHO, FCH, GWH 01.2. Introduction. Psychosocial refers to the psychological and social aspects of a human experience, i.e., how a person feels about his or his relations with others in society. As we've seen, FGM can affect self-confidence and self-esteem and cause problems in relationships. These would mostly be classified as psychosocial or sexual problems. Psychosocial and sexual problems are identified by interviewing clients using interpersonal communication, observation, and listening skills. It is not easy for a client to talk about a sexual problem as it is a sensitive issue. Moreover, in areas where FGM is practiced, sex is a taboo, something which is not talked about. Therefore, a woman will rarely speak directly about a psychosocial problem, but will tend to present with some physical complaint. It is essential for the nurse and midwife to pick up nonverbal cues of psychosocial problems by observing body language and listening carefully to the tone of voice, which may give more meaning to what the client is saying and feeling. Sometimes a client may just cry, which tells a lot about how distressed she is. She should be given comfort and a shoulder to cry on. Identifying psychosocial and sexual problems. The procedure for identifying psychosocial and sexual problems is as follows. Take the client into a room where privacy and confidentiality are assured and ask her if she has time to talk to you. If she has time, ensure that she is comfortable and seated near to you. Counseling should never be hurried. If either of you is pressed for time, it may be better to make an appointment for another mutually convenient time. Make it clear with body language and the way you are sitting that you are ready to listen to her concerns, and she should feel free to share anything she wishes with you. Encourage her to talk using facilitation skills such as eye contact, nodding your head, saying ah, and listening attentively while also observing nonverbal cues. When the client is opened up to you, ask her about her eating and sleeping patterns. Ask about menstrual patterns and sexual relationships in a very tactful manner. If these questions may embarrass the client and result in communication breakdown. Use open-ended questions, i.e. questions that require more than a simple yes or no answer, and thus offer the client the chance to explain things in detail. Use observation skills continuously to pick up nonverbal cues and tell the client what you have observed to give her the chance to tell you more about the situation. Listen carefully and empathetically, showing concern. Use all senses to try and understand the client's world. It may not be easy for the first time you meet her, but arrange for subsequent visits to explore more. Support for the client throughout the interview gave her psychological strength. Assess the client's intellectual status. That is her ability to understand information and comprehend a situation. Each girl or woman should be treated as a unique individual with unique needs and problems. Counseling and care should be tailored to individual needs and problems, not carried out accordingly to a formula devised for some imagined stereotypical client. Remember that throughout the counseling session, the emphasis should be on privacy and confidentiality, patience, creating a trusting relationship, remaining non-judgmental, understanding of nonverbal cues, using facilitation skills. Record your findings and share these with clients whenever appropriate. Here we have an image of a mother and her child in some sort of sandy location. And congratulations, we've made it to page 70, which is session 5, management of girls or women with psychosocial and sexual problems associated with FGM. By the end of this session, students should be able to manage girls and women with psychosocial and sexual problems started with FGM. Introduction. In some of the instances, girls and women from FGM practicing communities to visit a clinic complaining of a wide variety of physical problems for which no sign can be found when they are examined. Their complaints are, in fact, the psychosomatic. That is, they are psychological problems which the client experiences or disguises as physical discomfort. Anxiety about their genitals or about sexual relationships may manifest themselves into psychosomatic symptoms. Often the girl or woman is unaware that her symptoms are based on psychological anxieties, but in some cases the woman is aware of the fact that her symptoms she has presented are not the real cause of her problems, but she is too shy to discuss them directly and attends the clinic, hoping the healthcare provider will be able to read between the lines. Key elements in managing psychosocial and sexual complications. The key element in managing psychosocial and sexual complications are identification of the problem by interviewing the client, history taking, counseling to help her identify the real problem and accept it. Girls should be referred for counseling by their peers. Referral clients who are severely disturbed for more specialized care. Counseling is a principal tool used in managing psychosocial and sexual problem. Counseling of a girl or woman should be strictly confidential. If the client has a partner, he should be counseled separately if necessary. So the right moment arrives for them to be counseled as a couple. The aim of counseling is to help a client, couple, or family come to terms with or solve a problem they have. Managing psychosocial problems. Psychosocial problems include chronic anxiety and feelings of fear, humiliation, betrayal, stress, loss of self-esteem, depression, phobias, and panic attacks. They may manifest as psychosomatic symptoms such as nightmares, sleeping, and eating disorders. Disturbances of mood and cognition, loss of appetite, excessive weight loss or gain, and negative body images. The procedure for managing such symptoms is as follows. Access client to identify the exact problem, to take a detailed history, counsel client and partner where appropriate. Client has type 3 FGM, counsel her as the need for opening up. She is relieved of her symptoms. Importance of hang on. If symptoms are severe, refer client for further management. Managing sexual problems. Painful intercourse, dyspareunia. This procedure for managing the condition is as follows. Interview client to identify the real problem. Assess client to identify the type of FGM. If opening the introitus is indicated, counsel the client and or her husband/partner about the need for this to obtain the information consent. Follow the procedure for opening and repair. See session 8 on page 76. Where opening up is not indicated, encourage foreplay to stimulate maximum arousal and the use of lubricating jelly. Where opening is not in... Oh wait, I just read that. Opening of the infibulation after obtaining client's consent. Follow the procedure for opening up and repair described later in this manual. Give antibiotics and analgesics. Follow up client to monitor progress. Counsel the client and her husband about importance of discussing sexual matters. Invite them to come back whenever they have problems. Advise a couple of changes to expect as a result of opening up operation, e.g. changes with urine flow and sexual intercourse. Other sexual problem. Example is failure or difficulty in penetration by husband/partner. This procedure for managing processes such as problems is as follows. Assess the type of FGM, interview with the client to find out what the problem is, counsel the client and her husband/partner together, obtained information consent for opening up the introitus, follow the opening up procedure described later in this manual, documentation of FGM, record FGM type and complications presented. And we have what seems to be an African woman and her child. The child seems to be pointing at something, and the woman seems to be proud that her child can identify things. Session 6, demonstrating referral skills. By the end of this session, students should be able to identify conditions which require further management, such as fistulae, depression, infertility. Identify appropriate referral centers for the specific problems. Introduction. Referral is necessary when a client presents with a problem that is beyond the competence of the care provider. However, referral is not a simple matter. It is a skill. If clients are not well informed about where to go and why referral is necessary, the process may fail and the patient remain untreated. The nurse/midwife must know what services are available and which ones are appropriate for the different conditions. FGM complications which may require referral: severe bleeding, calculus, VVF or RVF, dermoid cyst, clitoral neuroma, depression, infertility, obstructed labor. When referral is necessary. Referral is necessary under any of the following circumstances. Under any of the following circumstances. When the management of a complication is beyond the competence of the nurse or midwife, such as in severe bleeding, required blood transfusion, calculus, VVF or RVF. Dermoid cyst, infertility, depression, obstructed labor. The health facility does not have the equipment or skills necessary for diagnosis or treatment. Referral is a skill. If the client is not well informed about the reasons for the referral, she may refuse to go. Besides, FGM is a sensitive issue. For a client who has developed confidence and trust in a particular healthcare provider, transfer to another place where she will meet new people may be daunting. Procedure for referral of clients. Usually you have identified the need for referral while taking a history or performing a physical examination. Inform the client sensitively and she has a problem who needs further management. Give her the facts and a reason for referral. Check that she has understood what you have said. Involve others, such as her husband, who will accompany her to the referral facility. Give them detailed information about what to do. Expect what to do at the referral point. Give the referral letter to the client on her attendance and give them the detailed instructions about how to hand it on at my referral point. Ask a client to return for following up and monitoring the progress after she has received specialist treatment at the higher level facility. Ask client to repeat the important information she has been given to check that she has understood. Wishing her good luck and tell her you will see her when she comes back from the referral point. The referral note. Just obtaining the final drops of my drink because I'm very tired. Oh, come on. Then I lost my place. I already read that. The referral note must include the following: client's demographic data, e.g. age, marital status, etc., summary of health history, clinical findings, care given thus far, reason for referral, practice training. Students will practice all the skills covered in Modules 3 in a clinical setting. And we have yet another African woman and who has a child, and both seem thrilled to be there. Session 7. Use of family planning in the presence of FGM. By the end of the session, students should be able to identify the type of FGM the girl or woman has experienced. Identify the type of family planning method appropriate for a given situation. I swear to God, this thing is not having fun with me anymore. Family planning is appropriate for girls and women with FGM as it is for any client. As with other clients, the medical eligibility criteria set by the WHO in 1996 should be used to determine the most suitable contraceptive methods for these women. Women who have been defibrillated may have difficulties in using a method which has been inserted vaginally or an intrauterine device, IUD. Since women with FGM of any type are prone to infections of the genital tract, IUD should only be used after careful consideration. When advising a client with FGM on planning, make sure history is carried out with sensitivity, and reassure the woman that you are comfortable with her condition and there will be a family planning method that will suit her needs. It is important to carry out a genital examination to identify type of FGM and to check that there are no problems that need attention, especially infection. Oh, come on! I cannot press a single button. Constraints. Following problems may be encountered by women with FGM seeking family planning. It may be difficult for the family planning advisor to perform a vaginal examination. It may be difficult to use a family planning method that has to be inserted vaginally. A client with FGM may encounter discrimination. She may be denied choice in family planning methods. Women with FGM may hesitate to seek advice on family planning due to embarrassment about the appearance of the vulva. The table on page 75 indicates types of family planning methods are suitable for use with the different types of FGM, as well as what are suitable. And now here we have a table. Table 2, family planning method and type of FGM. Oral pills. So I'm just going to break this down. So on the left-hand column, we have the contraceptive method, and then we have type 1 FGM, type 2, type 3, and type 4. So for oral pills, can use, follow World Health Organization medical eligibility criteria. Can use, follow WHO medical eligibility criteria. Can use, follow WHO medical eligibility criteria. Can use, follow WHO medical eligibility criteria. Injectable DMPA. Can use, follow WHO medical eligibility criteria. 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 Intrauterine devices, IUDs, CU and LNG 20. Can use, follow WHO medical eligibility criteria, but clients commonly suffer from infection. Oh, it's 6 in the morning. So it is important to exclude infections. Can use after assessment of the introitus as too much scarring can prevent easy introduction of IUD. Also check infections. Follow WHO medical eligibility criteria. Cannot use as the introitus is very tight. This is the only option. Advise opening up the infibulation. Can use, follow WHO medical eligibility criteria. During introduction, care should be taken care of the elongated labia minora and or clitoris, risk of infection. Barrier methods, female condoms, spermicides, tablets and foam, diaphragm, and cervical cap. Can use, follow WHO medical eligibility criteria. Can use, follow WHO medical eligibility criteria. It may be very difficult to use as the introitus is very small and in most cases does not even allow a fingertip. But if this is the only option, advise opening up the infibulation. Can use, follow WHO medical eligibility criteria. Nor plant implants, NOR. Can use, follow WHO medical eligibility criteria. 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 Natural methods. Sympothermal method. Can use with training, can use with training, can use with training, can use with training. The basal body temperature method. Can use with training, can use with training, can use with training, can use with training. The calendar method. Can use with training, can use with training, can use with training, can use with training. Cervical mucus methods. Billings ovulation method. Can use with training but exude infection. Can use with training but exude infection. Exclude, not exude. Exclude infection. Cannot use because it is difficult to test the cervical mucus, as in most cases the secretions are trapped by the infibulation. Can use with training, but exclude infections. That's a multiple, so I assume there's a difference. Lactational amenorrhea method. Now that just sounds awful. Can use with training, follow WHO medical eligibility guide. Can use with training, follow WHO medical eligibility criteria. Can use with training, follow WHO medical eligibility criteria. Can use with training, follow WHO medical eligibility criteria. Session 8. The procedure for opening up the Type 3 Fgm in fibrillation. Session objectives. By the end of the session, students should be able to identify Type 3 Fgm, assess whether there is a need for opening up the infibulation, demonstrate the skills on opening up Type 3 Fgm. Introduction. There are many situations in which opening up the infibulation will be necessary. However, such a procedure must only be done after the client has been thoroughly counseled. If the woman is married, and it is important to counsel with the husband separate sessions. Husbands need psychosexual counseling to assist them in dealing with changes in sexual intercourse. The couple can be counseled together when it is necessary or appropriate to have them both in the same session. Indication for opening up procedure. Opening up an infibulation is indicated in many cases. These include the following: urinary retention, common in children; recurrent urinary tract infection and/or the kidney infections; severe genital tract infection; hematocolopus, especially in adolescents; severe menstrual problems; difficulty in penetration during sexual intercourse; incomplete abortion; termination of pregnancy; childbirth, gynecological problems at the genital tract, gynecological diseases in elderly requiring manual or speculum examination or treatment vaginally. For the use of certain contraceptive methods for family planning, for certain religious/purification purposes. Preparation of the client. In order to prepare the client and her husband/partner or attendants where appropriate, the following procedure should be followed. Teach her about the genitalia. Make her aware of the difference between normal and infibulated genitalia. Provide information about complications associated with infibulated genitalia. Inform her of the legal status of Fgm in the country. Give full and clear information about the procedure and make sure she has understood. Also inform her that the sides will be sutured separately and not resutured together to create a small opening. Inform her of physical changes that will result from the procedure. This information must be given to her partner also, and if she is married, because the procedure will result in changes in urination, menstrual flow, and sexual intercourse. If the family refuses to give consent for an adolescent or the woman to be opened up because of fear of rejection by family and community members, the provision of a medical certificate may help to alleviate the concerns. Counsel the clients. Several sessions may be needed to prepare her psychologically for the procedure. Her partner and/or guardian should be counseled where appropriate. Make it clear to the woman and others if as appropriate. Sometimes a woman may be in two minds about being opened up. She may want it on one level, but be fearful of the consequences on another level. Counseling should aim to help her reach an informed decision about which she is confident. Reassure the client about privacy and confidentiality. If the client is an immigrant who speaks a different language from the health staff, make sure the interpreter is appropriate and is acceptable to her. Discuss pain relief options. Make sure you complete the required records and documentation accurately. Preparation of equipment and materials. Prepare a tray with antiseptic swabs, a pair of straight scissors, a dilator, 2 artery forceps, a gallipot with sterile swabs, sterile gloves, a 5 milliliter syringe and needles, local anesthetic, catgut, lubricant, sterile towel or Macintosh, antiseptic solution, a receptacle for used instruments, soap water for hand washing. The procedure. Make the client comfortable in bed or on a couch. Remember to use all interpersonal skills, facilitation skills. Introduce yourself to the client if you have not already done so. Go over again what you have already discussed with her about opening up. Emphasize that the main reason for the problem she has suffered is the infibulation is that the opening will relieve these problems. Ensure total privacy and confidentiality. Wash hands, put on gloves, expose the genitalia, and clean the perineal area with antiseptic swabs. Introduce the index finger or forceps or dilator slowly and gently into the opening to lift the scar skin. See figures 4.1 and 4.2. In 4.1, we see a rather simplistic diagram of a vagina, or I guess maybe this is just what a fibrillated vagina looks like. And this individual is introducing their finger or fingers under the scar. Figure 4.2, we see a very real image of a very messed up vagina. And this is introducing a dilator under the scar. And infiltrate 2 to 3 milliliters of local anesthetic into the area where the cut will be made along the scar and in both sides of the scar. See figure 4. In figure 4.3, we see infiltrating the scar area with local anesthetic. And this is where the individual brings their other hand to take give an inoculation, let's say. Your finger or dilator inside the scar, introduce the scissors and cut the scar alongside this finger or fingers to avoid injury to the adjacent tissues, or to the baby if the procedure is done during labor. The cut should be made along the midline of the scar towards the pubis. See figure 4.4. Take care you do not cause injury to the structures along the scar. It is common with type 3 Fgm to find structures below the scar intact, e.g. clitoris and labia minora. Incise the midline to expose the urethral opening. See figure 4.5. Do not incise beyond the urethra. Extending the incision forward may cause hemorrhage, which is difficult to control. Cut of 5 to 7 centimeters towards the urethra is usually appropriate. Generally speaking, there is little bleeding for the relatively avascular scar tissue. Now we have figure 4.4, cutting open the scar, and this individual is keeping the vagina open and using scissors to cut open the scar. And then in figure 4.5, we see a very real vagina with what I can only describe as a red monster, otherwise known as an unopened infibulation, and it is quite frankly horrid. Suture the raw edges separately using fine 3/0 plain catgut to secure hemostasis and prevent adhesion formation. Women should not be allowed to suffer pain, as this may reinforce negative ideas about being opened up. Therefore, analgesia should be prescribed following opening up the procedure. Antibiotic may also be prescribed during this situation. Now, in 4.6, we see the sutured side of the open scar, which again is a very real image, which is very disgusting. Post-operative care. Many women report increased sensitivity in the vulval area, which was covered by the scar skin for 2 to 4 weeks following the procedure. They may also report discomfort about having wet genitals. Prepare the woman for these experiences by explaining to her that there will be changes in appearance. She likely have increased sensitivity for a while. Sure that the sensitivity will disappear after a while, and she will get used to the feeling of wet genitals. Suggest that she takes sitz baths, warm water containing salt, 3 times a day, followed by gentle drying of the area and application of a soothing cream that should be prescribed for the first 1 to 2 weeks. Advise her and her husband when to resume sexual intercourse. Typically, this will be after 4 to 6 weeks. This may require counseling over several sessions. Advice and counseling regarding sexual matters require great sensitivity and should be carefully tailored according to the needs of the client and her family. It is culturally appropriate. Advise on the importance of personal hygiene. Make a follow-up appointment to monitor healing progress and to deal with any other issue that may have arisen concerning the genitals or sexual relationship. Home visiting is ideal because the client and her family need further support and counseling in order to cope successfully with the many changes following the opening up. Male partners in particular need psychosexual counseling to help them understand and accept the challenges in sexual intercourse and to ensure they do not persuade the women to be re-infibrillated. In cases where the client is referred to community services for follow-up, the nurse/midwife who performed the procedure must provide clear information to the healthcare provider who will be responsible for follow-up to ensure that there is no lapse in support. And we are now at page 80, and we are finally at Module 4, Management of Women with FGM during pregnancy, labor, delivery, and the postpartum period. The end is in sight, folks, and I just want to congratulate you for making it this far. Module 4 is also an intervention module. This module is intended to prepare midwives and those caring for women during pregnancy, labor, delivery, and the postpartum period to be able to manage women with FGM and identify problems. The module gives guidance on counseling, opening up a Type 3 FGM, and management of other complications associated with FGM. General objectives. On completion of this module, students should be able to recognize obstetric complications due to FGM, manage women with FGM complications during pregnancy, labor, delivery, and after a delivery. Demonstrate skills in opening up tight introitus in Type 3 FGM during pregnancy and in labor. Demonstrate skills in counseling. Refer clients for further management when complications are beyond their competence. Essential competencies. Students are expected to acquire the following skills from this module: ability to identify special complications that may occur as a consequence FGM during pregnancy, labor, delivery, and the postpartum period. Reference materials. A systematic review of the health complications of female genital mutilation, including sequelae in childbirth. Geneva, World Health Organization, 2000, WHO, FCH, WMH 00.2. Management of pregnancy, childbirth, and the postpartum period in the presence of female genital mutilation. Report of a WHO technical consultant. Geneva, 15-7, October 1997. Geneva, World Health Organization, 2001. WHO/FCH/GWH 01.2. Female genital mutilation, the prevention and the management of the health complications, policy guidelines for nurses and midwives, WHO/FCH/GWH/01.5, WHO, Geneva, 2001. Tubia, NA, a practical manual for healthcare providers caring for women with circumcision, Rainbow Publishing. New York, 1999. And there are only 4 sessions to this. Session 1. Assessment and management of women with complications due to FGM during pregnancy. Session 2. Obstetric complications due to FGM during labor and delivery. Session 3. Assessment and management of women with FGM complications during labor and delivery. Session 4. Management of women with FGM during the postpartum period. Session 1. Assessment and management of women with complications due to FGM during pregnancy. Session objectives. By the end of this session, students should be able to 1. Identify the type of FGM and assess how it may affect the woman during pregnancy. 2. Identify complications due to FGM during pregnancy. 3. Manage women with Type 1, Type 2, and 4 FGM during pregnancy. 4. Manage women with Type 3 FGM. Introduction. In FGM practicing communities, women coming to a clinic may present with many types of FGM. FGM-associated complications during pregnancy can be identified through history taking and during pelvic examinations. Problems associated with FGM during pregnancy. Tight introitus may make vaginal examinations difficult, e.g. during assessment for antepartum hemorrhage, management of incomplete abortion, etc. Urinary infections may interfere with the normal progress of the pregnancy. Chronic pelvis infections may interfere with normal progress of the pregnancy and may cause abortion. Vulval abscesses may cause pain and discomfort to the woman. Dermoid cysts and keloids may cause discomfort and perhaps obstruction during delivery. Psychosocial and sexual problems may arise as a result of FGM. Assessing problems associated with FGM. Problems can be identified during history taking and examination of a woman with FGM during pregnancy. During assessment, it is very important to create a trusting relationship with the client by using interpersonal communication skills, ensuring privacy and confidentiality, showing respect and patience. During assessment, check for the presence of conditions that are likely to cause problems during labor and delivery, e.g., tight introitus, infections, abscess, cysts, keloids, and other growths. All complications identified in women with FGM should be recorded, including the type of FGM. It is important to remember the following. Women with FGM often suffer great anxiety visiting a clinic when they are pregnant because of their genital mutilation. They may be fearful of being seen by a healthcare worker who is unfamiliar with FGM and who may advise unnecessary interventions, such as a cesarean section. Women with FGM should be made to feel welcome and respected in these clinics. You should reassure them that you are comfortable with their condition and that they will get services they need without being subjected to unnecessary interventions. Service providers working with immigrant communities may be unfamiliar with their cultural background. They should be aware of the need to be sensitive and respectful towards the cultural beliefs, values, and attitudes of the women. They must ensure that their own values and attitudes do not interfere with the care they give to the client. If an interpreter is being used, she should be acceptable to the client and should be impartial. Otherwise, there is a risk that her own beliefs and values will bias the interpretation of what is being said. During assessment, it is very important to create a trusting relationship with the client by using interpersonal communication skills, ensuring privacy and confidentiality, showing respect and patience. During assessments, check for the presence of conditions that are likely to interfere with vaginal examinations or treatment or cause problems during labor and delivery. These may include tight introitus, infections, abscess, cysts, keloid, and other growth. Record the type of FGM and complications identified. It is important for healthcare workers to be knowledgeable about types of FGMs so they do not ask their clients embarrassing questions. Management of women with type 1, 2, and 4 FGM during pregnancy. Women with FGM require sensitive antenatal care. Type 1, 2, and 4 FGM can produce several vulval and vaginal scarring, which can cause obstruction during assessment and delivery. Infection and inflammation occurring at the time FGM was performed may result in vulval adhesions, which narrow or completely occlude the vaginal orifice. Insertion of herbs or any other surface substances may also cause severe scarring and stenosis. Where type 1, 2, and 4 FGM have not resulted in any particular complication, the woman will not require special management or treatment during pregnancy. Reassure the woman that she is not at risk because of her condition and invite her to ask any questions about her excision or any other issues relating to her pregnancy. Find time to counsel her about her sexual relationship and give her support. Provide more information by giving leaflets on FGM. During follow-up visits, ask the woman if she needs any special help. Do not ask about her excision unless she wants to discuss it. Pregnancy provides a good opportunity to give women education and information on basic health, normal and excised genitals, childbirth, and postnatal care. Be aware that many women approach pregnancy and delivery with great fear of the possibility of dying. Special support and counseling is therefore required during these periods. Women with vaginal infections. Where the infections are serious, send a vaginal swab for diagnosis. If laboratory facilities are available, give antibiotics according to policy. Contact partner and give same treatment. Counsel woman and partner about the problem and monitor the situation closely. Women with abscess. Give antibiotics and advice on vulval hygiene. Give client a follow-up appointment in order to monitor progress. If the abscess is very big and needs surgical intervention, refer for further management and advise client to have a hospital delivery. Monitor her progress closely. Women with cysts and keloids. Make referral of client to delivery in a hospital where the facilities for a cesarean section if required. Management of women with type 3 FGM during pregnancy. Perform assessment to confirm type 3 FGM. Remember that there is a great need for sensitivity during history taking, and pelvic examination. It is not necessary to perform a vaginal examination to confirm infibulation, as this condition can be identified by visual inspection. In some communities, type 3 Fgm may not be the prevalent form of Fgm, and only a minority of women may be affected. Where type 3 Fgm is common, the vulval area should be inspected at the first antenatal visit as a matter of routine. Women with less tight introitus, i.e. opening of 1 centimeter or less, are at special risk of major perineal damage during labor. As a general rule, if the urinary meatus is visible, i.e. there's no barrier from the urinary meatus downwards, or if 2 fingers can be introduced into the vagina without discomfort, the mutilation is unlikely to cause major physical problems at delivery. If the woman has been pregnant before, her previous experiences during delivery will help indicate whether she is likely to have problems this time. Because of the need to seek sensitive information, it is important to create a rapport with the client and give her and to gain her confidence and trust. You should obtain her consent before conducting a genital examination. Making a record of the appearance of the vulva may help to avoid unnecessary examinations in the future. Give client factual information about the effects of type 3 Fgm on pregnancy and delivery. Give her information on the anatomy and physiology of the female reproductive system. Counsel the client and her husband and/or other family members, where appropriate, on the importance of opening up her infibulation before delivery. Discuss with them the importance of not resuturing after delivery. Give the client and her husband detailed information and about the changes that will occur in such functions as urination and sexual intercourse. Once the woman has been opened up, it may be possible for her to deliver with the perineum intact. Epistemology should only be carried out if necessary and not as routine. Ideally, opening up should be referred during the 2nd trimester. Opening up between the 20th and 28th weeks of pregnancy will allow time for healing before labor starts. It is not a good idea to perform the opening in the 1st trimester. The reason is that during the trimester, there's a higher risk of spontaneous abortion. If the woman happens to a spontaneous abortion after the opening up surgery, the woman may blame the surgery for her abortion, and word may spread the community that the opening up of a procedure is a dangerous one. While the procedure for opening up is described early in the manual. Instruct the client on the importance of vulval hygiene and the need to keep the vulva clean and dry. Advise the client and her husband/partner on when it would be safe to resume sexual activity. They should be advised to wait for proper healing to take place, generally 4 to 6 weeks after the procedure. Make an appointment for a follow-up visit after 1 week in order to monitor healing process. Information about the opening up procedure must be clearly recorded on the antenatal records. Once the woman has been opened up, it may be possible for her to deliver with the perineum intact. Epistemology should only be performed if it's necessary and not as a matter of routine. Opening up during pregnancy has advantages besides preparing for delivery. It means that clean samples of urine can be obtained, vaginal infections, premature rupture of membranes, and antepartum bleeding can be easily investigated if they occur. Women who refuse to be opened up during pregnancy should be informed about the dangers associated with infibulation during delivery. It should be referred to being delivered in hospitals. The antenatal period provides an opportunity for health workers to educate women and other family members, when possible, about the health consequences of Fgm. The objective should be to discourage women from subjecting their own daughters or granddaughters to Fgm, as well as discourage the women themselves from demanding resuturing after delivery. Counseling of the women and their husbands will help dispel some of the myths about misunderstandings about the need for tightness to enhance the man's sexual pleasure. And it will provide an opportunity to explain the dangers of related surgery to open up the vulva at every birth and restitch it again after every delivery. Session 2. Obstetric complications due to Fgm during labor and delivery. Session objectives. By the end of this session, students should be able to 1. Understand the complications which may occur during labor and delivery as a result of Fgm. Key references: a systematic review of the health complications of female genital mutilation, including sequelae in childbirth. Geneva World Health Organizations 2000. WHO FCH WMH 00.2. Management of pregnancy, childbirth, and the postpartum period of the presence of female genital mutilation. Report of the WHO Technical Consultation. Geneva, 15 to 17 October 1997. Geneva World Health Organization 2001. WHO FCH GWH 01.2. Female genital mutilation, the prevention and the management of the health complications, policy guidelines for nurses and midwives, WHO, FCH, GWH 01.5, WHO, Geneva, 2001, Tubia, NA, a practical manual for healthcare providers caring for women with circumcision, Rainbow Publishing, New York, 1999. Case study: Mrs. Piego is a 20-year-old primigravid who comes to the labor ward with a family member complaining of contractions for the last 5 hours. From her antenatal records, you know she is full term, but she also has type 3 FGM. It is your responsibility to admit her and to conduct a complete assessment of her condition to monitor her labor. You need to develop a care plan for Mrs. Piego. It takes account of the importance of reducing the risk of complications during labor and delivery associated with type 3 FGM. Analyze a case study and determine what complications you might expect for Miss Piego with her newborn under the circumstances. Analyze the causes of these complications. Possible FGM-associated complications during labor and delivery include reduced vaginal opening, which will present a direct mechanical barrier to delivery and interfere with other procedures required for both assessment and management during labor. A tight introitus may, for example, prevent vaginal examination and result in mistakes being made in assessing the degree of cervical dilation and in monitoring the stage of labor and fetal presentation. Labor may be obstructed as a result of scarring of the external genitalia, which prevents normal stretching of the perineum to allow passage of the baby. Prolonged second stage due to vaginal scarring of the perineum and a tight vaginal opening. Tears during delivery due to the rigidity of the perineum as a result of scarring some of the tissue around the introitus. Development of the obstetric fistulae as a result of prolonged labor, during which the foetal head presses against the bladder or rectum. Death, e.g. as a result of rupture of the uterus due to obstructed labor. Need for cesarean section because of infibulation has not been opened up during pregnancy. Possible effects on a newborn include asphyxia due to prolonged labor, neonatal brain damage due to obstructed labor, birth injuries due to difficult delivery, death as a result of delivery complications. And we have what appears to just be an African woman just kind of chilling out. Session 3. Assessment and management of women with FGM during labor and delivery. Session objectives. By the end of this session, students should be able to 1. Use assessment skills in order to identify and manage complications during labor and delivery caused by FGM. Introduction. In most cases, a woman who comes to the labor ward will have received antenatal care. However, there will be some who have not attended an antenatal care. And antenatal clinic. Their first contact with a healthcare provider will be when they arrive at the labor ward. Whatever the circumstances, the woman must be reassured that her condition will be managed, and the nurses and midwives are ready to offer any services she needs. Assessment during labor. The procedure for assessment of a woman with FGM arriving at the labor ward is as follows. Take a history of labor and perform a physical examination as you would for any woman in labor. Examine the genitalia with special care to assess the tightness of the introitus and whether or not it will allow for normal vaginal delivery. If there is a problem such as extensive scarring or keloid, the woman must be informed of the action to be taken to enable delivery. Physical examination. For a physical examination, the procedure for a physical examination entails the following: head-to-toe assessment, abdominal examination, inspection, palpation, and auscultation. Palpation of the bladder. Also, ensure the bladder is emptied regularly. Examination of the genitalia to identify type of FGM. Follow the procedure and principles of genital examination in women with FGM described earlier in this manual. If introitus is tight, explain to the woman the problems associated with having a tight opening during labor and delivery. Inform her that an episiotomy, oh god, I've been saying that wrong this whole time, will need to be performed during delivery to increase the opening, and explain carefully what is involved. Monitoring progress of labor. If there is a problem with assessment, such as tight introitus making vaginal examination impossible, the scar can be opened along the midline. The incision should be made at the height of a contraction, and usually after the administration of a local anesthetic. Generally speaking, there is a little bleeding from the relatively avascular scar tissue, and the suturing of the cut can be delayed until after delivery. If this situation allows, labor can be assessed using other parameters such as contractions, descent, and fetal heart rates. Observe the woman closely and monitor her vital signs hourly. Give her clear and simple information to the client about what we should expect during delivery. Record all observations in the partograph. Assessment of the introitus during labor. It is important to inspect the introitus carefully during the second stage of labor to assess whether it is going to be able to stretch sufficiently during the delivery of the baby. Prepare the client psychologically for this procedure by telling her what you are going to do and why such an assessment is needed. Ask her permission to examine her genitalia. Prepare equipment: a tray with antiseptic, sterile swab, and gloves. Prepare the client by putting her into a lithotomy position. Expose only the necessary parts of the body. Do not expose unnecessarily. Wash hands with soap and water. Put on gloves. Clean the external genitalia with antiseptic swab. Instruct the client to relax by taking a deep breath while you are introducing a finger into the introitus. Try slowly and carefully to introduce the first one finger into the vagina to measure the tightness of the introitus. If it allows one finger, try to move the finger upward and downward and left to right. If there is space for a second finger, try to widen the two fingers and check the resistance. If it is impossible to introduce a finger, or even the tip of a finger, the introitus is extremely tight, equivalent to type 3 Fgm. If it is possible to introduce a finger, but it is impossible to stretch the opening at all because of resistance due to scar tissue, it will be necessary to open up the introitus by performing an episiotomy. If there is need for an episiotomy, inform the client and perform the procedure following the guidelines described previously in the manual. Management of woman with tight introitus in cases of types 1, 2, and 4 Fgm during labor. Management of women with Fgm during labor is the same as for any other women, except where Fgm has caused vaginal stenosis and inelasticity of the perineal muscle. In such cases, there may be a need for an episiotomy. Generally speaking, women with type 1 Fgm are able to deliver vaginally without an episiotomy, unless there's extensive scarring causing inelasticity of the perineum. If Fgm has caused tight introitus, there is need to increase the vaginal opening by performing an episiotomy. Usually, a tight introitus will have being identified during the first stage of labor, and the woman prepared for the performance of episiotomy is at that time. If, however, the woman has arrived at the ward already in the second stage of labor, explain to her the need to increase the opening by performing an episiotomy, and inform her of when and how this will be done. As already described, this should be at the height of a contraction under local anesthesia using special episiotomy scissors. Management of women with type 3 Fgm during labor. If the woman attended antenatal clinic, the infibulation may have been opened during the antenatal period. In cases where the infibulation has not been opened, 635, first stage of labor is needed for this procedure. This client should be told that her vulva will be opened up during the delivery to allow the passage of the baby. She should also be informed that the sides of the infibulated vulva will be sutured separately and not resutured to a small opening, and told why. And she should be informed that the procedure will result in changes in the pattern of urination, menstrual flow, and also in sexual intercourse. We are now at page 90. We are in the end game. The vulva should be opened up during the second stage of labor at the height of a contraction to minimize pain. The cut should be made along the midline scar towards the pubis, taking care not to cause injury to the baby's structures or structures along the scar. As stated earlier, it is common with type 3 Fgm to find the structures below the scar intact, clitoris and labia minora. Follow the opening procedure described on page 76. In some cases where the scar has caused extensive inelasticity of the skin around the vagina, an episiotomy may be needed in addition to the opening of the infibulation. Usually after cutting, you deliver the baby slowly. After delivery of the baby and the placenta, and after the immediate needs of the baby have been taken care of, the entire cutting and any tears must be sutured. There's not sufficient time to discuss the procedure in detail with the woman if, for example, she arrives at the labor ward already in the second stage. Make sure everything is discussed with her after delivery. At this point, the woman should be counseled about the procedure and the importance of not resuturing to create a small opening impressed upon her. This counseling will require great patience, as the woman will be used to having a closed vulva, as this is all she has experienced in life. The changes brought about by opening her up will need to be explained carefully with sensitivity. She should be reassured that she will get used to all changes in time. Reassure the woman that you are ready to discuss the situation with her husband/partner and or anyone else she wishes. They may need to be counseled also. They should be informed of the procedure of opening up and the importance of keeping the genitalia open, and the health consequences of closing them again. Post-operative care for an infibulated woman opened up during labor is the same for any other woman whose infibulation has been opened up. Inform the woman of the need for good personal hygiene and suggest she takes sitz baths to prevent infection. Dressing of sugar and paste have been proved to be effective for treating the wound. Session 4. Management of women with FGM during the postpartum period. Session objectives. By the end of this session, students should be able to identify problems due to FGM during the postpartum period and manage women with FGM during the postpartum period. Key references: a systematic review of the health complications of female genital mutilation, including sequelae in childbirth, Geneva World Health Organization, 2000 WHO FCH, WMH 00.2, management of pregnancy, childbirth, and postpartum period of the presence of the female genital mutilation, report of a WHO technical consultation, Geneva 15 to 17, October 1997, Geneva World Health Organization, 2001, WHO, FCH, GWH 01.2, female genital mutilation, the prevention and management of the health complications, policy guidelines for nurses and midwives, WHO, FCH, GWH 01.5, WHO, Geneva 2001. Introduction. It is in the period of immediate following delivery that major problems may occur. These include extensive lacerations and hemorrhage from tears. If an incision has been incorrectly performed, tears may involve urethra and bladder anteriorly and rectum posteriorly. Later in the puerperium, sutured lacerations may become infected and break down. In cases of type 3 FGM, and if the infibulation has not been open, both mother and baby may suffer severe injuries, e.g. VVF and RVF in the case of the mother, and asphyxiation, stillbirth, or severe brain injuries in the case of the baby. Therefore, it is vital that a woman with FGM and her baby be properly assessed after delivery. Immediate assessment of mother and baby. Immediately after delivery, the mother should be assessed as follows. Check if uterus is contracted. If it's not, massage the uterus to contract, check the bladder and empty if necessary, or administer oxytocic drugs. If you have delivered the woman, change gloves to another sterile pair. Check for tears on the vulva and inside the birth canal. Clean the vulval area to enable you to look in the external genitalia. Use speculum and good light to check for tears in the vaginal wall and on the cervix. Introduce the speculum wall very slowly, as this may cause pain to the woman. Look along the inside of the vaginal wall and at the cervix. If there is any bleeding or tears, take appropriate action immediately. Immediately after delivery, the baby should be assessed as follows. Apply the APGAR test. If the baby is asphyxiated, resuscitate it. But if the condition is severe, send for medical attention appropriately. Subsequent assessment of mother and baby. Assess the mother's genitalia for bleeding and any signs of infection, and check that any tears, episiotomies, or edges of an open-up type 3 FGM are healing properly. Assess contraction of the uterus and bleeding, check for the normal involution of the uterus, assess mother's mental state, psychological and emotional, assess the baby according to normal routine, e.g. check site of umbilicus for healing or bleeding, check progress with breastfeeding. Complications after delivery. Complications to look out for after delivery include excessive primary bleeding due to injury of the arteries and veins as a result of tears, secondary bleeding as a result of wound infection, infection which may lead to septicemia septicemia, urine retention if repair was not done correctly, injury to adjacent tissues due to tears if the delivery was not managed correctly. This may result in incontinence of urine and or feces, vesicovaginal fistula, VVF, sexual problems if repair was not done properly, asphyxia neonatorum due to obstructed labor. This may result in brain damage to the baby. Management of a woman with Fgm after delivery. Management of a woman with Fgm during the postpartum period is the same for any other women. However, these women will need more psychological care in cases where the vulva has been opened up and not closed to restore the genitalia to the condition they were in before pregnancy and delivery. Such women will have to learn to accept dramatic changes to the vulva from what they have known all their lives. The open vulva would be different both in appearance and in function from the infibrillated vulva. Women may request that they be resutured after delivery. In countries where there are laws against closing up an open infibrillation, it is relatively simple to deal with the situation, since the nurse/midwife can say the law does not allow the resuturing. But in countries where there are no such laws, a request for resuturing can cause a real dilemma for the nurse/midwife. In such a situation, the nurse/midwife should follow the guideline of the health facility on her institution. Whatever the legal status of Fgm and resuturing, counseling and education over this issue are extremely important, and every effort should be made to discourage the practice of reinfibulation. Immediate care. In case of hemorrhage, suture any tears and episiotomies immediately. Also suture the size of an open infibulation. See procedure described earlier. If uterus does not contract, expel any clots, massage the uterus to aid contraction, and administer oxytocic drug if necessary. Keep the patient warm. Postpartum hemorrhage is severe, call for medical assistance. In cases of neonatal asphyxiation, resuscitate the newborn and send for medical attention if severe. Postpartum follow-up. Women with type 1, 2, and 4 with no complications after delivery should be advised like any other woman. Assure client you are available to answer any queries she might have about her own care or that of the baby, or concerns about sexual matters. Perform the usual postpartum care for the mother and the baby. Women with type 3 Fgm just need the same kind of postnatal care as any other woman, but they will need additional information, counseling, and support to help them adapt to the changes following defibrillation, and to discourage them from seeking reclosure after discharge from the health unit. Discuss with her feeling of wetness and increased sensitivity in her open vulva, which she might not have experienced before. Advise her to wear loose underwear to reduce discomfort caused by friction. Provide psychosexual counseling to the husband separately to make him aware of the importance and not closing the open up infibulation, and to help him deal with sexual changes. A woman with any type of Fgm who delivers a baby girl should be counseled about the consequences of allowing her daughter to be excised. The husband of any other family members who are influential in decisions about Fgm, e.g. mothers and mothers-in-law, should also be counseled about the same issues. Like other women in the postpartum period, those with Fgm should be advised about the importance of personal hygiene, good nutrition, adequate rest, and care of the newborn, including breastfeeding. They should also be given family advice and counseling like any other newly delivered mother. Whoops. Whoa. I'm way off. There we go. Always make sure you record information on Fgm types and complication. And we have a picture of a group of individuals. And then a blank page, and then Appendix 1, Case Studies. And we are at page 95. Oh, it is so close, I can taste it. Appendix 1, Case Studies. Case 1. Adela is a 27-year-old woman from Nigeria. She sells yams in a village market. She's been married for 4 years, but she has no child. She goes to a Pentecostal church where she has made friends with one of the prayer sisters, Dua, who is a midwife working for one of the private clinics. One day, Adela asked her friend if she would fast and pray for her because life was becoming miserable with her failure to become pregnant. Her friend agreed, but also took time and an opportunity to talk to her about the problem. Adela told her friend that she was a virgin when she was married, and she thinks that this is why her husband loves her, even though she is childless. However, she wants to have children because her mother-in-law has been asking her husband about it. She also thinks that although her husband does not seem bothered at present, that may change since no African man can be happy for long with a wife who does not produce children. I didn't say it. When asked about her childhood, Dela revealed that she exercised when she was She was excised when she was just 8 years old. Following the procedure, she was very sick for over a month. She had fever and the wound was sore and smelly. She remembers the room she was being nursed smelling so bad that she was embarrassed when people came to see her. She said that her mother had to give traditional medicine to drink and apply to her genitalia, but she did not improve. She was taken to a hospital where her condition was very serious and everybody thought she was going to die. Dua advised her friend to visit a doctor for investigations and made an appointment for Adela to see one of the gynecologists in the clinic where she was working. The investigations at the clinic revealed that Adele's fallopian tubes were completely blocked, and the doctor told her it was due to infection. Her problem there was primary infertility. The doctor said they could try to clear the obstruction of the fallopian tubes with surgery, but Adela and her husband have so far not been able to raise the money necessary for that operation. Case 2. Yemeni is a 32-year-old male midwifery tutor in a medical school in Ethiopia. His wife works as a clerk in the hospital where he teaches. They have one daughter who is 3 years old. They both come from an area where traditionally every baby girl has her clitoris excised during her first month of life. Before he got married, Yemeni had the chance to attend a workshop on female genital mutilation, which sensitized him and made him realize that the tradition is harmful. He decided not to allow his daughter to be excised. He had educated his wife, and she supported the idea of not excising their daughter. The family lives with the Yemeni's mother, who wanted her granddaughter to be excised. She complains constantly that the girl is becoming more and more naughty because she is not excised. It is time you decided to excise that girl. Look at how she behaves. Who is going to marry her? Or she says to Yemeni's wife, I cannot sit here and look at you violate our tradition. This girl belongs to our clan. She must be excised. It is our culture. Yemeni keeps on talking to his mother about the harmful effects of female genital mutilation, and he has made it clear to her that under no circumstances will he excise the little girl. He says it's hard to keep challenging his mother, but he will persist. Case 3. Asma is a 30-year-old housewife. At the age of 6, she was infibulated. She still remembers the pain and brutality of the procedure. She was married at age 16, and she says the pain experience when her husband penetrated her made her terrified of him for a long time because she thought he was so brutal. Intercourse continued to be painful for the first 6 months of her marriage, and she never enjoyed sex, but accepts it as an obligation in marriage. Asma has 4 children, one of whom is a 2-month-old girl. At each delivery, she is open to allow the passage of the baby and then restitched after birth. Her husband insists that she should have a tight vagina. Asma is currently debating with herself whether or not to have her daughter infibulated. She feels that if it is done, then it should be less extensive than her own type of FGM, because she does not like to think of her daughter experiencing the agony that she has been through. Mita is a 35-year-old this is case 4, by the way. Mita is a 35-year-old university lecturer who decided that her 2 daughters would not be excised, and she and her sisters, just as she and her sister had been. Mita's daughters were both born while she and her husband were studying abroad. When the family returned home, the mother-in-law asked if the girls had been excised. Mita said they had not, and explained to the older woman that she and her husband agreed that the girls would not be mutilated. Mita went back to work, but she was unable to find a maid to look after the children while she was out of the house. Since her mother-in-law was in the same time, she decided to leave the girls with her during the week and fetch them on Friday evenings to take them home for weekends. One Friday evening, she went to fetch the girls. She was surprised to not find them playing outside as usual. I think we all know where this is going. Her mother-in-law explained that they could not come out because they were not well. Mita thought that perhaps they just had a fever. But as she entered the room, the girls cried out, "Mom, it hurts!" It did not occur to her immediately that girls had been genitally mutilated, but her mother-in-law announced proudly, "I have excised my granddaughters. I have done what is right for them." Case 5. Agnes is a village woman who was excised when she was a child. She does not remember how old she was, only that she grew up with this scar. She was married at age 17 and realized 4 months after her marriage that she was pregnant. Agnes decided to deliver at home, and her husband called a well-known, experienced traditional birth attendant when labor started. She was in labor for 2 days and finally gave birth to a stillborn baby. Agnes was badly torn during the delivery and had to be taken to the hospital to have the tears stitched. She also bled profusely and was transfused with 1 unit of blood. However, the tear was so extensive that Agnes developed a vesicovaginal fistula, VVF, which she had repaired 8 months after delivery. Unfortunately, the operation was unsuccessful, and she is to have another operation to try to repair the fistula, which she hopes very much will be successful. While she is undergoing treatment, she is living with her parents again, but she says her husband, who is a farmer, is very supportive and visits her regularly. Oh God, we're almost done. Case 6. Ella is a 19-year-old woman married to a soldier. She has a 2-year-old daughter who is defibrillated 7 days after birth. Child has been admitted to the hospital several times because of urinary tract infections. During discussions, Ella reveals that she also was mutilated when she was a child and that she has lived with the pain all her life. She explains that she was opened during delivery and stitched up again afterwards to create a small opening. She did not want her daughter to undergo the procedure, but says there was no way she could persuade her mother-in-law to accept the idea of her little girl should not be excised. Ella's country is now at war, and her husband is on the front line. A week after he left the front, his mother inspected Ella's genitalia and then called a traditional birth attendant who stitched her up to create an even smaller opening to ensure that she remains chaste, i.e., does not have intercourse, until her husband returns from the war front. We have a group of African individuals just enjoying themselves on a blank page. And now we're at page 99. Appendix 2. Learning resources. You might want to take these into consideration, all right? So we got some film and videos. Compilation of videos of female genital mutilation. UNHCR Program and Technical Support Section, P.O. Box 2500 CH 1211, Geneva. This video is approximately 70 minutes and comprises of the following films. Scarred for Life, 25 minutes, produced by ABC, a special program called Day One. This film complements the topics in the introduction to Fgm. A Dangerous Practice, 12 minutes, produced by UK News Program. This film particularly addresses issues of human rights. Welcome to Womanhood, 15 minutes, produced by Charlotte Metcalf. This is a report of reach projection in Kapchorwa, Uganda. Reach is a project which is started by the United Nations Population Fund to work with Sabini people to stop the life-threatening practice of female circumcision. The film looks at traditional beliefs, values, and attitudes, and is specifically relevant in discussions about involving men in the prevention of FGM. Infibulation, the worst type of female genital mutilation. It's 12 minutes long. This film is produced by the IAC, shows the act of infibulation. It can be very disturbing, and some students may break down in tears. They should be given support by their teachers and encourage each other. This film was specifically useful in teaching about the different types of FGM, or in efforts to change people's beliefs and attitudes towards FGM. From awareness to action, eradication of female genital mutilation in Somalia, eradicating female genital mutilation in Somali refugee camps in eastern Ethiopia. UNHCR Liaison Office, P.O. Box 1076, Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. The film is especially relevant to the lessons in Module 2 on community involvement of the prevention of FGM. WHO film, Female Genital Mutilation, The Road to Change, WHO, Geneva, 2000. The film discusses the origins of the practice. It describes the different types of female genital mutilation and the efforts made to describe the practice in various countries. It is especially relevant to the lessons in Modules 1 and 2. Printed materials for the WHO. Female genital mutilation, a joint WHO, UNICEF, UNFPA statement, WHO, Geneva, 1997. Female genital mutilation, an overview, WHO, Geneva, 1998. A systematic review of the health complications of female genital mutilation, including squalene in childbirth, WHO, FCH, WMH, 00.2, Geneva, 2000. Female genital mutilation programs to date, what works and what doesn't, a review, WHO, CHS, WMH, 99.5, Geneva, 1999. Female genital mutilation, a handbook for frontline workers, WHO, FCH, WMH, 00.5, revision 1, WHO, Geneva, 2000. Management of pregnancy, childbirth, and the postpartum period of presence of female genital mutilation, report of WHO technical consultation, Geneva, 1517, October 1997, WHO, FCH, GWH 01.2, WHO, Geneva, 2000. Summary of intentional and regional human rights texts relevant to the prevention of violence against women, WHO, GCWH, WMH, 99.3, Geneva, 1999. Counseling skills in adolescent sexuality and reproductive health, Facilitator's Guide, WHO, ADH, 93.3, Geneva, 1993. R.J. Cook, Women's Health and Human Rights, Geneva World Health Organization, 1994. Regional Health of Action to Accelerate the Elimination of Female Genital Mutilation in Africa, World Health Organization, Regional Office for Africa, Brazzaville, 1997. The Right Path to Health, Health Education Through Religion, Islamic Ruling and Female Circumcision, WHO, Regional Office for Eastern Mediterranean, 1996. Books and booklets. We got Tradition, A Story of Mother Earth by Dorkanu E., published by Forward Limited, London, 1992. Yimmer's Story, published by the National Committee on Traditional Practices in Ethiopia, 1995. Aliyah's Story, published by the National Committee on Traditional Practices in Ethiopia, 1995. Fatuma's Story, published by the Turin Center Regional Program, AIC-AIDS ILO, 1995. Female Genital Mutilation, The Unspoken Issue, published by the Royal College of Nursing, London, 1994. Dorkinu E. 1994, Cutting the Rose, Female Genital Mutilation, the Practice and its Prevention, Minority Rights Publication, Prevention. I wouldn't want to prevent these minority. Smith, J. 1995, Visions and Discussions on Genital Mutilation of Girls, an International Survey, published by the Defense for Children International, Netherlands. John Hopkins Population Information Program, 1997, The Essentials of Contraceptive Technology, a handbook for clinic staff, publisher of Population, reports WHO, Geneva. Robert A. ETAL, 1997, The Essentials of Contraceptive Technology, a handbook for clinic staff, John Hopkins Population Informative Program, Center for Communication Program, the John Hopkins School of Public Health, 111 Marketplace, Baltimore, Maryland, 21202, USA. International Services for Human Rights, Women's Rights in the United Nations, a manual on how the United Nations Human Rights Mechanism can protect women's rights, 1995, P.O. Box 16, 1211, Geneva 20. Tubia, N.A., a practical manual, a manual for healthcare providers caring for women with circumcision. Human Rights Charts. The Universal Declaration of Human Rights, 1948. The Convention of the Rights of the Child, 1989. The Convention of the Elimination Against All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, 1979. And the African Charter of Human and People's Rights, 1981. And WHO documents on FGM are available on the website www.who.int/FRHW HD. Notes, 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 notes. And with that, we have concluded our episode of Female Genital Mutilation, a comprehensive guide. It is 7 in the morning. I've been doing this for 4 hours, and let me tell you, it feels good to be done. Thank you for watching. Next week, I will have a normal episode. Peace.